Okay, so Street Talk time this week. Very excited to talk about this one for our scenes, what we have seen filmed. And we're going to start off with the mega story of Stephen, Reed and poor Leo Tompkins, I still remember, in the bin. And Jenny, I'm still calling this title, Gemma, There's Been a Murder. I had a few options for that, but you said that was your favourite. We have then, last week we had the Kaadi-gone storyline, Gemma. Now it's Kaadi-gone because, alas, Ardie and Kelly are no more. Kelly has left the show. She wasn't even in it this week, was she? And she is confirmed gone.
It's Kaadi-gone season.
It is Kaadi-gone season. Oh, we're going to October now, aren't we? Also, a little bit of Double Trouble stuff in there because Fern made a little appearance on Wednesday's episode 2. Next up, we've got the Bailey storyline. Forget it being about James. This was all about the Dee-Dee Debut. Dee-Dee Debut.
Dee-Dee Debut.
Can some people pronounce it as debut, or is that just pronouncing it wrong? Because then it'd be Dee-Dee Debut.
They should be just kicked in the bin.
Okay, well,
I think that's actually what Leo was saying before Stephen pushed him.
Debut. Stu've and Framed is up next, which took up a large chunk of Friday's episode, and then we say goodbye to Evelyn just temporarily after her charity shop stint on Monday. So for the time being, that is our Leave-lyn storyline.
I like that.
Leave-lyn, thank you. So
if I had a beloved tree, I would call it Leave-lyn.
Would you like to do the Stephen storyline, or would you like to do the Kaadi storyline, Gemma?
What would you like?
I don't mind. I don't mind
I'll do
at all.
this one.
You better make it sound exciting because flipping was. I think.
Do you want to do it then?
No, you do it.
Right. Everybody listen. On Monday, Leo tries to talk to Stephen, but he doesn't want to know. Oh, Leo.
Comes into the cafe, doesn't he?
Still alive on Monday.
Stephen's doing his Wordle, isn't he, on that scene? He's like, oh, I got you. You just given me the idea. Moron. I love how, throughout the week, even after he died, there was just slacking off of Leo.
Leo comes in and Stephen's like, you gave me the idea for my Wordle. Murder. He wants to talk to Stephen, but he doesn't want to know. And he says, Leo, you just keep an eye on your girlfriend. Then in the Rovers, Leo is having a sneaky look on Stephen's website, which is his... What is it called?
Yeah, it's like St. Reed, isn't it? Like Saint Reed or something. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why he was looking on that. I don't know whether anything came...
Is this guy really... Does he really make clothes? It looked quite high end, didn't it?
Looked better than the Underworld website.
I know. It doesn't have a dodgy thing loading with like random people going, I don't know what to say. Whoever designed his website... Well, that's why they wanted to get the web designer that did his website.
Very true, yes.
Yep, they know.
With maps in the end.
They know how to make a retail website. Who'd have thought it? Anyway... Jenny's all excited because she's going to go to Canada. Then when she goes off to do something, Leo confides in Daisy that he's still a bit hurt about what happened between Jenny and Stephen. Then his dad turns up.
Teddy.
So this is the guy who was fancied Jenny, didn't he?
Yeah, back when they were at school together.
He's been in it before, in the very early days, which is when Jenny realised that the age gap was...
the early days of this storyline, yeah.
Yeah, not the early days of the show.
Yeah, they meet up in the hospital, don't they?
He was first in it in 1962.
Yeah, they were in the hospital together, and Jenny
That's
and
right,
him
when
were
Leo was
reminiscing
there
over
for
old
lobotomy.
times. It's Leobotomy.
Teddy, is that why it's called that? Because they all model the patient's end results on Leo's
we won't make fun of Leo anymore after this week's episode. We promise. We just won't mention him.
Oh, really? Teddy hears all about this kiss. He cannot believe that Leo's still considering to go halfway across the world with that old slapper, and he needs to ditch her. And Leo won't listen because if his dad won't accept Jenny, then he is done.
Didn't Jenny say I can't remember whether it was Jenny or Teddy himself that said that Jenny used to be compared to a rally chopper or something back in the 80s. That's a bike.
Thanks, Michael. Always like Top Gear around here, isn't it? Daisy tries to convince Leo he's doing the right thing, and Jenny is totally committed to him. Leo, do you remember last week he left a message on the estate agent's phone saying that he was Stephen's assistant and he wanted to talk to them about this listing that Stephen had tried to arrange, which was secretly to put Audrey's house on the market without her knowing because he said that she had dementia. Right, well, now the meeting has come to fruition. Leo meets up with his estate agent, who is very surprised that Stephen still wants anything to do with him. And Leo says, "Oh, it's all a big misunderstanding. Let's smooth everything over. Can I get some details about this booking?" And he finds out that it was a bit of a rush, and
he kind of
a few things that make him suspicious of what the hell Stephen was up to.
Yeah, because Stephen had originally said that he made the booking like months ago, hadn't he?
Yeah.
And then he'd forgotten about it or something. But yes, Leo is quite
caught him out in a
quite
lie,
shrewd
hasn't he?
in his questioning, and finds out that massive lie. What a
Leo
fibber.
also spies on Stephen as he lets Gabrielle into the factory, follows them in. They go out the back, and Stephen still he sneakily goes up to the gantry, doesn't he?
Leo does, yeah.
Yeah, and
I don't know how he managed to go up there without clang, clang, clang. I suppose it was he went through the inside, didn't he? And I don't really know why Stephen and Gabrielle needed to go outside to have this secret conversation.
Secret. I know, usually if you want to have a private and secret conversation, you stand on the street corner so that people can approach you from 4 different directions. So,
this is how you know Stephen's going to be a master criminal. He knows to have his secret conversations where actually no one's going to be.
So, Gabrielle and Stephen standing outside the back of the factory, which will become a more familiar scene for you over this week, as Stephen likes to lurk up and down like a cat in heat. He is still insistent that he's going to get Gabrielle her money within a month, and she tells him that he's robbing his mother, which Leo watches from above like, interesting.
Yeah, he goes like, he's been what does he say? He's been a naughty boy then, or something along those lines.
Well,
after Gabrielle goes.
Gabrielle goes, and Stephen sees Leo up on the balcony. It's kind of like Romeo and Juliet. If they hated each other. He unveils, he's figured out his whole plan, and he says he's going to phone the police once he's spoken to Audrey. Takes out his phone. At this point, they're both standing up on this little balcony.
It's on the gantry, in it, yeah.
Which is where Tina McIntyre was. Or was it? No,
that was the builder's yard. This is a location that they've never really used before.
No.
And it's not, it's not new. There's always been, at least since the Media City move, I think there's always been this little Brewery Lane area around the back of the factory, but very rarely have there been scenes there.
Very, very rarely ever been used. If you want to imagine where it is, if you remember back to when Spider was leading his posse into the brewery to sleep in there, and then who was it that came and told them to bugger off?
Leanne.
Debbie, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Debbie and Ron.
So that little brewery, the doors there is very, very close to the back of the factory. If you go through a massive gate, it's literally the other side of that. And if you also imagine the Platt's house is backing onto it. It's literally the other side of the factory.
Yeah.
Obviously. So they're on the gantry together. Leo's threatening to phone the police and tell Audrey. Takes out his phone. Then they start to struggle. And
yes, Leo drops his phone, doesn't he?
Stephen bops his head on the railing, and he kind of he's dazed, isn't he, Leo? And then and then Stephen takes out the trash.
It's difficult to know, because I don't think he was dead at that point, because as he goes over the edge of the balcony, he didn't scream as he went down or anything, but he definitely seemed conscious, like he was trying to stop himself from going over. But he was on his way out. That was a bit of a fatal blow to the old noggin, wasn't it?
So Stephen pushes him over, and there's a bin handily below.
A handily open bin as well.
Miscellaneous household waste, straight in. Stephen runs downstairs and sees Leo dead in the bin. And we get a couple of close-ups. It was very harrowing and gory.
It was a bit. I said at the time it reminded me of that bit in the Ring movie where the characters are talking and they just cut to the girl in the cupboard with her sort of face on. It was quite grisly.
Yeah, it's his dead face with a bit of blood coming out of his ear.
Yes.
He's like, oh dear. Quickly closes the bin because Sarah comes out going, bye, 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 have the bin man bin, and she's got some rubbish she wants to throw in there, and he grabs it off of her so that she can't open the bin. And then she's like, so then, why don't you come to the story with me? I want to talk to you about my pants. I know what you should doing your business. Women's fashion. I don't really think our website's that good. State reads such much better than that.
And Stephen, in the meantime, is just like having his little meltdown, isn't he? Like he's just killed a man accidentally.
Yep. And Sarah is so self-absorbed that she doesn't even notice that he's just...
Because white as a sheet, he's shaking.
The thing is about her, it's probably a self-preservation technique for her marriage. If she shut up talking every time somebody looked like they were completely uninterested in what she was saying, she'd never say another word to Adam again. So, Stephen and Sarah go to the bistro. What are you having for your dinner? Pizza. Oh, that's really good. Jenny, Rita and Daisy are there, wondering, where's Leo got to? And Jenny's leaving him a message. Stephen's always in the back. Was Stephen at the bar during this? And then Jenny was in the background, wasn't she? And he's just kind of listening in, realising that, this person that they're talking about and wondering where he is. He knows exactly where he is. He's in the bin. He's right in the bin where he belongs. Sorry. So, Stephen's listening to Sarah, also listening to Jenny and Co having this conversation about, Jenny and Leo starting a new life together. Well, it would have to be a new life for Leo, wouldn't it? There's extreme close-ups a few times of his guilty face. Then Rita presents Jenny with a photo album. She's really ungrateful about it as well, isn't she? She's like, why do I want this for? And we didn't even get to see the pictures, did we? I don't think we did. I wanted to have a little nostalgic flip through. But no. Rita raises a toast to Jenny and Leo. Then Jenny catches Stephen as he leaves, saying, look, it's a dirty trick telling Leo about you and I having a kiss. So it didn't work. If anything, it's made us stronger. Anyway, she warns him, don't mess around with Leo because he's strong and you wouldn't want to tussle with him. And he's like, well, good luck. And she accepts that as an apology. And he sort of stumbles away. He's still completely shell-shocked about what's happened. And he sort of walks towards the factory, but Carla's already there and the police are there. And he's completely shocked. He thinks he's already been rumbled. But no, it's because the gantry door has been left open and it triggered an alarm. And he's like, it wasn't me. I don't know anything about it. Maybe it was Sarah. She's such an idiot. Carla calls him a fibber and says that Sarah said that she saw Stephen there. And then he says, I just needed some air. And that's all it was. The police come back and they say, tell you what, we've had a thorough look at the cobbles outside. No blood, so I don't know if there was any crimes here, but certainly couldn't see any straight away with looking with our eyes. They should have at least had Officer Craigie on this, and then we'd have believed why he didn't do quite. Yeah, exactly. So now we know that there's at least 2 incompetent officers on the force at Weatherfield. Yes, Officer Craigie would have been out there going, I want to open the bin, but I know it's just my OCD, which I don't have anymore, because I've completely cured myself of that storyline, so I'm not going to open the bin 5 times. So they tell Carla to look at the CCTV, and he's like, oh no. And Stephen says, was everything all right out there? Did you like our bin? And the cops say, yeah, come and look at it. So they all stand around the bin talking, and Stephen's just like staring at it. And they've got this bottle and they want to put it in the bin. He's like, I'll do it. Nobody's noticed that Stephen suddenly turned into Maria as far as putting things in the bin is concerned. What do you mean he's turned into Maria? She likes recycling and so does he. Oh, yeah. Yeah. But there is a final scene, isn't there, at the end that we saw filmed. Where he moves the body. Oh yes. Sorry, I haven't written notes about this. You've written end scene and then you looked at me. No, I didn't. I was too obviously gripped at seeing this scene that I didn't actually write any notes. I'm pretty sure that's not how the episode ended. Oh yes, it was the one where he drags the body. Is this called Kiwi Park? No. Kiwi Park was Wednesday. This was the episode. This was the scene that we did see filmed. Remember? Yes, Michael, it helps when you write down notes and don't just write middle scene, beginning scene, end scene. Right, go on then. What happens at the end episode? Well, there was a scene where 2 people were standing behind the camera watching in awe. As it's difficult to remember because I remember exactly what happened when we watched it, but what was shown in the show was a lot shorter than what we actually saw. Yes. So it's dead of night, and you get Stephen comes in, and the bin's there, everything's dark, and he sort of looks around all kind of suspiciously. Then he flips the bin open. He's like, oh no, what have I done? And then he tips the bin over and the body sprawls out. And how many bin bags were in there? I can't remember, but definitely very long conversation about how many there should have been.
Yes, there was.
Then he takes the dummy's feet, and I don't mean Leo, I mean the actual dummy, which if you want to see what that looked like, you need to go to our Instagram because it actually was pretty funny.
Yeah.
It didn't look...
Not the best like this.
No, not at all. So he drags Leo's corpse into the underworld van that's waiting handily there, all the while disgusted with himself and his violent tendencies.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is exactly what happened, and so ended the episode.
And if you want to listen more about some of the funny things that happened when we watched that and the story behind how we got to see that filmed, you need to listen to this week's bonus episode, which I think was Wednesdays. And
yes, it came out on Wednesday.
Very good fun. Really, really privileged and humbled to be able to have seen that being filmed. Matt Hilton directed it, and if you'll know if you watched it how harrowing actually it was with all the different angles that he used, and the sort of the music in the background was really good.
It was just
it was so dark,
percussion sort of music, wasn't it? It was there was an awful lot throughout the second half of Monday's episode and also Wednesday's episode that was super tense, and part of it was down to the just the atmospheric noises that we used.
Yes, and
which I don't usually like, but it worked very well here.
Shots.
Yeah.
So Wednesday, we start off with this really great flashback, and flashbacks can be quite controversial and divisive on Coronation Street. Some, and the way they do them there's kind of cliche ways of doing them. You either play back the sound as you close in on someone's face, going, "Oh, I remember that happening," or you just play the scene again. And you put a filter over it. And
I thought that's where this one was going at first. I was like, well, you don't need to show it again. We remember what happened, but...
So it opens up with the filter, the sort of the grey filter on the scenes we'd previously seen on Monday where Stephen bonks Lee on the head and chucks him. But this time, we also get to see current day Stephen standing on the ground looking up to the galleyway, what's it called? Gantry. As Leo's corpse kind of cartwheels through the air into the bin, and it was really, really, I absolutely loved it. This is like my favourite shot of the whole year on Coronation Street. Just seeing Stephen in these two, like him looking at himself in the past from a totally different perspective, watching this murder take place in front of his eyes, standing in front of this bin where the corpse was, where the corpse landed, watching Leo kind of fly through the air.
Yeah, it's very nicely done.
I don't think I've ever seen a flashback done that way.
Well, Corrie doesn't do flashbacks very often, does it?
Not on Coronation Street.
Usually it's just, I'm being very generalising here, but often it's just kind of a bit blurry, a bit fuzzy, but they don't try to do anything too arty with it, did they? But this time they really did, and I appreciated it.
Michael comes out and says, "Oh, it smells like someone died in that bin." He can talk. He's the one that makes smells. He's just trying to cover the fact he did a fart.
So when Michael needs to fart, does he go out and fart in the bin?
And go, "Oh, that smells like a corpse." I think this whole story, the whole story has actually secretly always been about Michael's
flatulence.
Michael flatulence. That's my favourite dancer. So obviously Stephen feels a bit awkward about that because there was a dead body in there. He's like, "Oh no, I think he died when I bonked him on the head." So in the Rovers, Jenny's panicking about where Leo is, and because they're supposed to be going off, aren't they, to Canada
today.
And Daisy tells Daniel that Leo was rattled by his dad coming in, and she's a bit concerned. Jenny goes looking for Leo, and she sees Shona at the cafe, and also Stephen's there, looking white as a sheet. And then Maria sees Stephen's at the pub now as well. This is what I do when I've murdered someone. I just wander around looking like
from
Lady
eatery
Macbeth.
to eatery.
Maria notices he's got dirty nails. I don't know why she says this about.
Well, she is a nail lady herself, isn't she?
Maybe she
works at a salon.
Maybe it was the nail thing, or maybe it was the environmental thing.
Maybe
she's like, "Wow,
You've been
Stephen,
planting trees
are you
to save
starting
the world,
a garden in your nails? You're going to grow some cress." Daisy speaks to...
Daniel.
You've written Daisy.
Yes.
Within Stephen's earshot and reckons Leo's got cold feet and going to Canada.
This is Jenny she's
without
talking
Jenny.
about. Yeah. Yes.
And she's going to let her know. So it was Daniel.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. That was my poor notes again. Yeah, Daisy saying to Daniel, right, he has gone, hasn't he? I'm going to go and find Jenny, take her out somewhere public, announce to her that she reckons that Leo's gone, and she says that I'm going to do this in public so she doesn't have a total meltdown in front, because she's less likely to have a total meltdown when there's people around or something, isn't she? Which is a bit insensitive, I thought.
I know everyone probably thinks I'm really mean when I say I don't understand what Michael's notes are, and you probably think, Gemma, you should know because you watched it. I challenge you to read notes from a week before and understand when somebody's name is written in a sentence in the wrong order. It is actually really difficult.
Sorry.
No, I'm not blaming you because you write all the notes. You do really hard work. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to be mean. I just literally do not know what you mean. I'm not trying to make a big deal about it.
When I say Daisy talks to Daisy.
Sorry. Right, Daisy and Daniel take Jenny to the bistro, as you said, and Daniel's like, oh no, I've got to go because Bertie's thrown up at the nursery.
I don't feel that Daniel particularly added much to this week's Coronation Street.
It feels like Daniel's like, well, in my contract it says I've got to be in...
Yeah, and we haven't seen him very much recently.
I've got to be in 52 episodes, and if you don't put me in every episode for the rest of the year, I'm afraid I need some extra money, thank you. So, Daisy tells Jenny they think Leo might have done a runner, and the taxi's booked for 40 minutes from now, so what do you think, Jenny? Do you think that something's up here? And Jenny's like... Actually, you're right. He's jumped me, hasn't he? She says. Meanwhile, we see Stephen sneaking around the back of the Rovers when the pub's empty, and he...
Yeah, not the back of the Rovers outside, but the inside.
He's going through the bar.
Yeah.
Because obviously Daisy and Jenny aren't there anymore. Gemma's manning the pumps.
But she's upstairs.
And making herself toast or something. So Stephen sneaks in, and we follow him to the living area. And this was really interesting too, because we get to see the fourth wall of the corridor of the Rovers, which is very, very, very rarely ever been seen.
Yeah, no, they never show that, do they?
I really don't know how many times.
They had that little table there, didn't they? And it's like, I don't really
I've
recognise
never seen that before in my life.
But it was a cool little shot going from the bar area through the back bit into the living room, which...
So he gets in there and he takes Leo's passport off the table. Then he hears something.
There.
Oh my goodness. Jenny and Daisy leave the bistro, and Jenny feels like an idiot. Oh, why did I snog Stephen? I can't believe this. I reckon Leo's gone to Canada without me. And Daisy says, well, he can't. He's left his passport here, so he's not going anywhere. So Jenny strides off to the Rovers. Gemma, meanwhile, has come into the kitchen to get something, her cheese on toast. And Stephen has to hide behind the door. And as... Gemma comes out, he grabs Leo's bag with all of his stuff, including his passport, and manages to sneak out of the Rovers without anybody seeing him. Jenny then gets back, and there's a message from Leo. Is that on her phone?
No. But I say she gets the message. Sorry, this is terrible note taking. No, she just realises that
she understands because the passport's gone now. Because both their passports were on the table.
Yeah, and the bag was there. And she says, oh, well, his passport's gone, the bag's gone. He must have left me. He must have come in while we were at the bistro. It really is over now. She's
distraught. She removes her ring. And don't worry, the notes are clear there. I know you mean engagement ring.
I do.
And later on, she's dolled herself up, isn't she? She's kind of wearing a power outfit, like Diana's revenge dress. And she's... putting on a front, isn't she, at the bar? And then Michael comes in and says, oh, when you off to Canada? And she's like, get out of my pub. And she gets really angry, and she also has a go at Stephen for giving her a dirty look. And Rita says, it feels like you're not actually over this as much as you're claiming that you are. Why don't you go to the airport to see if you can catch Leo before he leaves? What have you got to lose? So she goes and she comes back. We don't see her, but we see her returning, and it hasn't gone very well because they weren't allowed to go any further than the check-in desk, but they never saw him there, and he's gone. That's it. Nobody could believe this because Leo seemed like such a good bloke. And back in the back, Jenny talks to Daisy about how this is karma because she didn't take him seriously, and she thought she was punching above her weight. And Daisy says, no, look, it was just bad luck, a bad bloke. He was a bit boring, Jenny. This is the most interesting thing he's ever done, she says. Jenny says she's back to square one on the wrong side of 50. And Daisy says, but you're on the right side of fabulous. Then we get the end scene.
Yes.
Which is the one I thought you meant on Monday.
No.
Which is Kiwi Park, as I said before, I think. Industrial estate, right. Which was the location shoot that they filmed. We didn't go to. And there was supposed to be a grave digging scene, but I think they probably decided not to do that because they just had another grave digging scene.
I'm not sure whether there was supposed to be a grave digging scene or not, but we saw a grave, but I think it was a bit of a blink and you'll miss it shot of the grave. It was
in the foreground of a shot. Yeah. There was some disturbed earth, which I don't think was very, very obvious that it was a grave. But we did see Stephen burning things, which are...
including the passport.
Which are his effects.
Yes.
So, he's dead, everybody. In case you didn't know. Friday. Jenny's trying to do yoga to get rid of her anger. Just take it from me, it doesn't work. Daisy tells her she's tried calling Leo, but it's no good. And Jenny's fuming. Stephen revisits the scene of the crime. He almost has a big flashback, but they don't have the budget for that, so he just looks at the phone. He
finds Leo's phone on the floor, doesn't he?
Somehow
the police managed to completely miss when they were combing the area on Monday's episode.
Don't get paid to find people's phones or rescue cats from trees. So.
It does have a good battery, doesn't it? Like, I know that Coronation Street only has a 3-day week, so it was only 2 days since Monday. But even so, yeah, these Android phones have got good battery life.
Just saying, if Argos wants to do a tie-in, they do a lot worse than advertising whatever phone it was that Leo's left. This world. Glenda turns up for a shift and Daisy has to tell her they don't need her anymore because Jenny's not going to Canada. So Glenda tries to convince her that she should be hired and Jenny feels guilty and says, look, just give her the odd shift. Stephen comes in and acts surprised that Jenny's not gone to Canada and Jenny says, look, Leo's gone. Dead, buried, forgotten. And
if only she knew.
Stephen's like, this is really awkward. Teddy comes into the pub, Leo's dad. Pretty mad because he can't get hold of Leo and he blames Jenny for the fact that he can't get in touch with his son. If I was Stephen here at this point, I'd take advantage of everybody's ignorance about Canada and I'd say, oh yeah, sorry, in Canada we just don't have phones or the internet or television, so if you need him you're gonna have to send it a message by moose.
And Teddy's like, can't be stuffed with that. I'll just
Teddy's
assume
like,
he's
oh,
okay.
whatever, boring, no, don't fancy that. I would say, don't mess with a moose. Have you seen how big they are? They're bloody huge.
I've never come face to face with one, but I believe
a big moose would, fill this room. They're really tall.
What?
Yes, they are. They get really, really tall.
Wow.
They really do. I'll show you a video later.
Okay.
If you're listening to this and you have a Canadian friend, just text them right now and say, send me a video of a moose. They will love to send you a video of a moose, I'm telling you. Right, so Teddy's like, fine, I'm not gonna I don't know how to contact him then. Daisy tries to call Leo again and then Stephen put this Leo's phone in his breast pocket and then his phone starts ringing and he's like, oh my god. Sorry.
You're going to have to do better than this if you want to be Corrie's next master criminal, Stephen. Sorry, Richard Hillman would never have done that, just saying.
I'm really sorry, I had an Eccles cake for lunch. He runs off. So then we also get Glenda. Is this Glenda that said this?
No. Jenny sees that Glenda has poured a slightly dodgy looking pint, but agrees to give her another shift anyway. And she sees this pint with a very big head on it, and she says, "Do you want a flake in that, love?" Which is a reference to an old Boddington's advert, which is I think local Manchester beer or something. There's an old advert, and this must be like back in the 90s, wasn't it? Where there's a desert and there's this runner as this like sprinter running through the desert, and there's an ice cream van there, and Melanie Sykes, local Totty Melanie Sykes is there as the ice cream
brunette booby lady, very very beautiful.
She wasn't particularly booby, was she? I don't remember, but anyway, she
made the best of what she had, to tell you that.
She's in an ice cream van and she gives this guy a pint with a big frothy bit, and then she says, "Do you want a flake in that, love?" And the guy says, "Oh, tar." So she puts a flake in the top of his beer.
And what was the beer?
Boddington's.
And what is that?
beer from Manchester, the cream of Manchester.
There you go.
So yeah, Jenny says
that
the
all
line.
explains that reference, that cultural reference to anybody who was not around in this country when.
Well, I hope that maybe there were some people that watched it and goes, I'm sure I've heard that line somewhere. That's
it's very relevant to Manchester. Then we see Stephen in the Guinness later, looking at Leo's phone, trying to guess
wonky angle.
Trying to guess what the password is.
I thought he was going to do it. I thought he was going to do the classic Corey thing of getting it wrong twice, and then on the third time he goes, "Of course, it's 1-1-1-1 because he's so boring."
It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hang on, when was Weatherfield County founded? 1888. Yes, I got it. No, it's none of those.
Weatherfield Rugby Club, more like in Leo's case.
What could it be? It's like some kind of boring mathematical thing, like pi or something.
Well, you can make Leo on your calculator if you turn it upside down and type in 037 or something, can't you? So maybe it's something like that.
No, he's like, I know what it was. 8008. That dog.
He doesn't get the password.
He doesn't get it. Aggie comes out, sees him, and says, "Oh, you look really shifty." Everybody this week is like, "Hey, you look like you murdered someone." Oh, Leo's probably dead. They said this about 5 times, and every single time Stephen's there going, "Oh my god."
Yeah, he needs to work on his poker face, doesn't he?
Meanwhile, Jenny tells Daisy and Glenda that she's gonna hide away for a few days, and Glenda says, "Great, because I want to do Monday's quiz night."
I'm looking forward to that. I was worried for Glenda at some point this week.
Do you know what they should have done when she on her first evening?
A Glenda reveal party.
That's what the quiz night could be called.
Yes.
Maybe when she becomes a stripper, we could call it Glenda reveal.
No, because I was thinking, I even wrote in the notes earlier this week, like, where's Glenda during all this stuff that was going on? And it's like, has she got a job here? Because she's been strangely absent since because she came into the show like August, wasn't it? And she's been very, very sparsely used since then. And I thought it was fine. She get the job in the Rovers a few weeks ago. We'll start to see her more now. And no, we didn't. It's just been Jenny and Daisy mostly. But it looks like Glenda is here to stay at the pub, and I'm very, very pleased with this fact. I know that there have been a few people, it seems, online that are taken against her, but I'm still quite enjoying her so far. I'm saying let's give her a chance. And I think that putting her in charge of the quiz night on Monday could be an awful lot of fun. I hope we get to see it. So, anyway, discussion point, Gemma. Stephen's a murderer. What do we think?
I can't believe this has all happened this week.
I know. It's been a big one, hasn't it?
I feel like we've known this since August. That this was going to happen.
I just remember back being so thrilled finding out that Stephen was going to be a killer. When we found out that
this was going to be...
By reading it off a piece of paper.
The story is, if you didn't listen to the bonus episode, that we knew there was going to be a night shoot and there was going to be a body that was being moved, and we didn't know who the body was or who had killed the person that was dead.
And we assumed it was something to do with the Ardy and Kelly story.
Or Kelly or something like that. So... when we found out that it was Leo, and then you found out that it was Stephen who was the one who was moving the body, we were like, well, this is a turn up for the books. And
I don't know what I was more thrilled about. The fact that Stephen Reed has turned into a murderer, or the fact his first victim was Leo.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking one for the team, Leo. Honestly, good job.
Yeah, thank you. So ever since then, I've just been watching Stephen it's the most thrilling thing, the most amazing character. Because we do like I know that it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I'm not going to keep making disclaimers because we love this kind of storyline, and just the fact that it's Stephen Reed, he really feels like a John Stape level kind of bumbling.
Yeah.
He's not going to be. He's kind of a mixture, isn't he, of a Richard Hillman and a John Stape, where he's hapless. But mind you, actually, Richard Hillman was pretty hapless a lot of the time.
Well, yeah, he was. I mean, Richard's first victim, and we're kind of taking massive leaps here and saying that Stephen may kill again. I mean, there's no clue about that already. We're just going on what this seems to happen on soaps. He can't kill once.
Gary has only killed one person.
Well... Anyway, Richard Hillman's first victim was Dougie Ferguson, wasn't it? Remember how he died? Kind of accidentally. It was more that Richard left him to die, wasn't it? But that was falling over the banister, and then plonking down onto the bottom of the floor at the ride-in. So there are definite parallels between Leo's death and Dougie's.
Mind you,
and what?
If you think about who killed Tina?
Rob.
Rob only killed Tina. He didn't kill anybody else.
He didn't.
So
yeah.
So the sort of potential here we have is either a kind of a Rob Donovan story where it's just one murder, or a Richard Hillman story where it
I mean, we have only just had a serial killer on Coronation Street a few years ago. Pat Phelan left, 4 years ago,
that's
maybe?
too long ago for me.
It's really, really close, actually. But I've been saying that Coronation Street hasn't had a decent villain for a while. Well, not really since Jeff. There've been the odd grey hoodie here and there, hasn't there? But for those of us who really enjoy there being a proper murderous villain to get you to sink your teeth into, it's been a bit of a dry period. And I think normally I would say no, it is too soon, but the characters that they've got mixed up in there, so I'm like, oh yeah, let's just go for it. Let's go to town.
Like, it is a bit of a joke that Leo was boring, and honestly Stephen was shaping up to be a bit.
I think this is one of the reasons why I like it so much.
Yeah, exactly.
That Stephen was just a bit of a blah character. He was fairly bland. And Ian McLeod has said that he was a blank slate, and it's like, well, we could write him as however we want. And I don't think it's not out of character or unrealistic for him to do this, because we don't know much about what his character is. Or, I mean, whatever was established 20 years ago has kind of been forgotten a bit, but even then he was only in for a month or two, so why not? I think he's definitely got it in him, but like you said, it wasn't, he didn't plot to kill him, it was an accident.
Yeah, there was no premeditation here at all.
No.
But this is kind of like the levels of escalation that Coronation Street murderers kind of...
It totally was. And if we are going down the serial killer route, then there's definitely, like I said, Richard Hillman vibes, because Dougie and Leo, there's parallels there. And Gabrielle's got to be next, hasn't she?
Gabrielle's got a target on her forehead.
She has. And obviously, ever since Gabrielle's been on screen, that's been since we've seen Stephen killing Leo. And literally, the moment that she walked on screen, I'm like, you're dead meat, missus, sorry. She has been screaming Patricia Hillman at me ever since she first appeared, so I feel kind of sorry for her, because that's going to be very handy. She's going to come back in a month, isn't she? She said, if Stephen hasn't paid this moolah by then. I think that, come Halloween or mid-November, there could be another victim here. But then if it follows the Richard Hillman trajectory, third victim's got to be a beloved character, which is, again, Maxine was an accident, wasn't it? He went to kill Emily Bishop, and Maxine was just collateral damage. So I wonder whether there is going to be the escalation, because the thing about having a serial killer storyline on Coronation Street, you can't just kill little side characters. Nobody really cares about Leo. It's like Daisy said, this is the most interesting thing that Leo's ever done. Unbeknownst to her, she's dead. But he's dead. Sorry, this is the most interesting thing he's done. Gabrielle, if she gets,
just call her Patricia.
Yeah, exactly. She might, but who cares about that? They've got to sacrifice a beloved character to make this a really decent serial killer storyline.
I know who should go.
Who?
Beloved Elaine.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this earlier.
We speculated, because he definitely gave her the glad eye, didn't he? Yeah. She fancies him.
And that really didn't go anywhere, which makes me, now looking back on it, think, were they just sowing the seeds here of having a link between him and Elaine? But even then, Gabrielle and Leo are both like,
I don't know whether they'd bother to kill off Elaine in that way, and also if they did, which family would be embroiled in this sort of mystery, this murder mystery? Would it be the Nazirs, or would it be the Metcalfes? I don't know. Either family could involve themselves, and I don't think either of those are very.
I'm not interested in the Nazirs getting involved in it. Do you think
they kill Audrey?
No, he's not going to kill Audrey. That's the thing.
Oh, I'll tell you who's got a victim written on their back. Our young Lily. now. She's a budding footballer. She's got everything to live for now. They've really developed her character so they can bump her off.
I do wonder who it's going to be.
I tell you what, if they killed off Lily, I'll be straight onto Ofcom.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Phelan... I suppose
Michael,
the most beloved... Yeah, I mean, Michael was a bit...
Well, he was played by a special guest star.
He was, but he was
Dennis.
still a fairly small character, even though he had been on the show a few years. Same with Luke, he was fairly minor. Yeah, I don't know whether Phelan killed anyone that was like...
Super high profile.
Mega... No. But I hope that if... We're just completely... There has been no confirmation whatsoever, know. But lots of people we've seen on the internet are thinking that Stephen will surely kill again. And I think they kind of need to, because...
It's like
2022 Coronation
Street. Once you get a taste for blood.
2022 Coronation Street hasn't been the most vintage of years, has it? And especially since, you know, I would say so far that the biggest story has been the Abby Imran Toya stuff. But even that's not been completely without fault, has it? And it doesn't feel like the big stories that Coronation Street has this year. So I think that they really need to run with this, and the people that are calling for this storyline to be brought to a swift end, I'd say, no, I think there's an awful lot of mileage that can be got out of Stephen.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily mileage they want, is it?
No, I know. But,
and we've spoken before, the thing is, we've spoken before on the show about what is Corrie, you know, what is a Corrie story. Can you accuse Coronation Street of being too dark or having too many murderous plot lines? And again, we'll say and remind everybody that one of the first early storylines was about Elsie Tanner's husband, Steve Tanner, being murdered by Joe Donnelly, who then killed himself at Christmas in front of Stan Ogden and Minnie Caldwell. So it goes all the way back to the very beginning of Coronation Street. This is not unprecedented whatsoever in the history of Coronation Street. So, you know, you're going to have to accept that now. You're just going to have to accept it's part of Coronation Street, the same as all the other things that you might like or not like about it. It's just part of the show.
Yeah. When we heard that Stephen Reed was coming back in the summer, I thought it'd be another fleeting appearance, and I was like, oh, that'd be kind of nice. We don't need him back for long. But now I'm like, keep this going. I think that, I mean, I'm kind of predicting the trajectory of this now. Is it going to keep going until Britain's Got Talent Week in May next year? Or...
May?
Well, yeah, it could. If he is
going to... No, I'm saying it may.
It may do. If he's going to kill multiple times,
I will kill again.
It could be, you know, Super Soap Week next year that he's unveiled, or later.
Kidding?
I mean, Pat Phelan certainly went on for quite a few.
See, I'm thinking here like Christmas. I'm thinking... Have a nice Christmas murder. And
I think it would be fairly foolish to try and wrap this one up quickly. If I was Ian McLeod, I'd think I've got something that could be quite interesting here. And I think that, you know, Stephen Reed character doesn't have quite the charm, charisma, interest as Pat Phelan or Richard Hillman yet. But who's to say?
I love him. I love Stephen. And can I also just say, we did, like I said, we saw this being filmed, and Todd Boyce, who plays Stephen Reed, is actually physically quite imposing and really quite menacing. And because he was kind of, at one point he sort of walked around in between sort of like for a little break, and I kind of like, he kind of walked past me, and it was just me and him, and he came in through the factory doors, and I was standing there, I was like, oh, hello. And I was like, should I curtsy? I don't know. Will he kill me? But he was like really
He's taking
tall.
It very seriously.
He's really tall, and he's got this really kind of menacing presence when he wants to. A bit like what I was saying about Jimmy Harkishan as Dev. You know, these men are actually really quite big in physically, and definitely think he could push me in a bit.
Yeah, I would go absolutely. Yes, because when...
And I also remember, I just want to say something that wound me up. Somebody on Twitter was saying, oh yeah, right, oh, he would never be able to push that bin over. He did. He actually pushed that bin over in real life.
Multiple times.
And, you know, so just forget that. He does all his own stunts, okay?
So when the filming was going on, when he wasn't filming, there's a little mini green room for them, isn't there? Where
so inside
Rita's flat is.
Well, yeah, but also inside. Can I just say, inside the factory is just it's like just full of crap.
It's a shell.
well, there's bits and bobs of
Dr. Gaddas's office is inside the factory, but that was kind of
not
in
probably.
pieces.
Yeah, all just random bits.
Yeah, but we also saw there were like all the the paramedic and the costume lady that were all watching
the monitors
of the scene in there. But yeah, Todd, his little green room is if you go out Underworld, turn right to where where the big the garagey bit is, where Rita's supposed to store her papers, and to the left of that you got the door to Rita's flat. If you go in there downstairs, it was the little green room for Todd, and then the runners every so often had to go and get him. I didn't go inside. I was like, could I go inside? Could I say hello?
Sacred ground.
I was doing a podcast. I was a picture, please, but I didn't. But yeah, so that's where he was during there. But
I know if we were bolder, we should have got a picture of him with the dummy.
Yes, you're posing with a dummy. That dummy was.
Well, we can't get back
when I was watching the scene, like I was saying this to you earlier. I couldn't picture it as Leo in my head. It's like he's dragging a dummy, and that's part of the the problem of seeing it being filmed live. And I regret not 1 second of seeing this film, because we weren't always automatically going to go to this night shoot, were we? The idea is that we would see the Gary and Maria scenes filmed inside, which come to later, and then kind of tootle off home. But Matt said, you can stay for the night shoot if you want. And we were like, yes, please, even though there's mega spoilers.
The original reason we weren't supposed to go is because there were such huge spoilers. But as we said, if you listen to the bonus podcast, we found out through various means what exactly was going on, and at that point there was nothing really that could have been spoiled for us. So
we were so lucky to get in on that day, because I think when you look back to what are going to be the most memorable scenes of the year on Coronation Street, definitely that one that we saw, that is going to be up there. That's going to be on the clip shows.
Love it or hate it, that was
and it was edited really well, and Todd took a very long time dragging this body, didn't he? And so it was interesting to see that how Matt cut it down to time, and there were like little jumps, weren't there, as he was taking it into the body. But yeah, like I was saying, when I was watching it, I was like just thinking, it's a dummy, and even like there was a shot underneath the van.
You can tell how excited we are by how fast it's
I know.
Talking.
There's a shot from underneath the van where you can see that Stephen's legs, and then the body is in front of them, and like you can see the hair of the dummy, and it's like, that doesn't look anything like Leo. But it's just because I know. And when he's dragging this hulking body into the van, I'm like, I know that's a dummy.
I know you say that, but me personally, I can watch it and go, it's totally. I buy everything here.
I absolutely couldn't. I could not think that that's not a dummy. But I didn't. Like I said, I've got no regrets about seeing this. It was so much fun. And if people were wondering, because I can't remember whether we said on the other podcast where we were standing, we were just to the right of the factory, weren't we? So if you can picture the scene where the bin is, and then the factory's behind the bin, and then to the right of the bin there's some gates. We were just kind of right by those gates, weren't we? So but there's one shot of Stu've where you can see the other bin, and then he's there on the other side. We were right behind that cameraman, so we were literally right behind a cameraman, 3-4 meters away from Stephen as he was pushing the bin over. We were like, you could almost hear us breathing. It was just really, really fun. I'm so chuffed that we got to see that. And it was a brilliant scene, and it wasn't the only great scene on this, because like you said earlier, that flashback scene on Wednesday,
I adored
masterfully done. I loved it.
That was probably my favourite shot I've ever seen in Coronation Street, and there's been
slow-mo
some really good
body
ones.
going over the gantry with the two Stephens, brilliant.
Like some of the stuff with Jeff was really great and imaginative, and really, I can't think of another word than imaginative, but this definitely takes a biscuit for me, because I just thought it was perfect.
And then obviously the burning scene as well was it was dark and brooding.
It's impossible for me to watch this storyline without just being emotionally invested in it from like this really bizarre maternal kind of perspective. Like, I helped create this. It was my karma that oozed through the scenes. You know what I mean? I feel like really emotionally invested in this because I saw it being filmed.
Do you wish that we had gone to see the burning scene?
Only because then we could say we've seen every sort of scene that you could see.
Yeah, we haven't. Yeah,
Night
we haven't
shoot,
been on location.
Night
yet.
shoot,
Studio shoot, street shoot.
and
Yeah. And
you
then...
just completed everything in a weird order. That's what I was trying to say.
Sorry, but we were just like so tired because it was just before midnight
because we
when
couldn't go. We didn't have a car, and they were like, "I don't know if you could fit in the minibus."
No, I thought they said we probably could fit in it. I don't know.
I know, but that's not saying please come with us in a minibus, is it?
We kind of, me and you put our heads together and we thought, no, we're really, really tired. But
and also at this point, it was really fascinating, and we really did enjoy watching this. But this scene, you will not believe how long it took to get this scene done. And there were points at which we were just wandering around all over the place. I was chatting to the wardrobe lady. I was talking to the second runner, assistant runner. I was talking to the paramedic guy. I was having like really in-depth chats with the cameraman, and we talked to the Steadicam guy. Like there was so. It was
a good 2 hours.
It was
wasn't
very long.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I was like, well, I think I've seen filming now.
Yeah, very, very fun. I was interested this week in seeing the actual scene on the gantry as well, because Matt had showed us like a sneak preview of this scene on his iPad when we were having tea with him, hadn't we? But I kind of was half watching. He's like, do you want to see this? Do you want to? And you were like, yeah, show us anything. And I was kind of half watching. But I didn't realise until the episode aired that it was the knock on the head that killed Leo. I thought that he just goes over and he falls a great distance and falls in the bin. But I was also thinking, that's not very far, and he has quite a soft landing. So I'm glad they made it.
Why do you
to me, at least, very obviously bashed his head.
Clear that he died from hitting his head?
Well, because there's the blood coming out of the ear, isn't there? He did not die from that fall. It's not that high, and like I say, he has a soft landing in the bin.
I know, but it does make me. I don't think it was conclusive, and I think we know that he's dug this grave because the script says that's what happened, but I don't know how obvious it is in the show. But he's, the idea is that he's buried Leo on this kind of wasteland. So, and it really, I mean, if you actually go back and you know that it's the grave that you're looking at, it just looks obviously like a big old grave. So if somebody's going, oh, where's Leo? I think he's dead. Oh, look, there's a grave. Should we dig that up? You know what I mean? So I'm wondering whether when they find Leo's body, inevitably, they will go, oh no, looks like he died of suffocation. If only the person who killed him had known. He actually wasn't dead. He was buried alive.
I think, they had enough shots of his very dead-looking eyes, didn't they?
Michael,
which were brilliant. I loved that.
Can I just say, if medical professionals can get people buried alive, I think that blimmin' Stephen Reed of St Reed's Clothing, Milan/Toronto, is not necessarily going to be able to know whether Leo's dead or alive. Well, to be honest, a lot of the time, I thought he was dead anyway and he was still walking around.
You did say that this was like Romeo and Juliet earlier with the gantry, wasn't it? And
that's true.
There was stories there were characters there that you didn't know whether they were dead or not.
They kept waking up and going, oh no,
I'm okay.
I just killed myself.
Well, people online, I don't think they could believe that he was dead, because I saw lots of people going, oh, I thought he was going to, like, Stephen was going to open the bin and Leo wouldn't be there. Or, oh, I thought that he would spring alive once he was in the van or something. And I was thinking, no, I'm pretty sure we knew that we were told he was dead.
Because in the script it said, Leo, body, Joe Frost not needed.
Yeah.
So.
But when we went to Coronation Street set on the Friday, so 2 days later, when we were waiting in the entrance hall there, we did see Joe Frost, didn't we? Because he came back to film do some pickups. I don't know what from, but that was his last day, and he'd just come back off holiday and he was talking to the lady behind the welcome desk, and he's like, "Oh, this is my last day today." Yeah.
I also saw on the Coronation Street Reddit subreddit, they were saying. The Conversation Street podcast said that they saw Joe Frost when they went to go and visit the set on this date, so I don't see how he's left. And I was like,
I know, I did see them talking about us as well, but we couldn't say anything. This has been like mega secret that I've not told anybody about this because we weren't allowed to, obviously. But it's been very cool knowing things, but I wouldn't want to know things all the time.
No.
We're spoiler free for a reason. I know that lots of listeners like to be spoiler free. But it's always been kind of my my way, don't find out what's going to happen in Corrie because it'll spoil it. But I think, for these few bits, we went at a very good time where we got some juicy goss, and it has been quite nice knowing a few things. But the really annoying... Go on.
I was just going to say, there are plenty of scenes we've seen recently on the screen that we could have gone to see filmed that you would have forgotten immediately after you'd seen them.
Yeah, but you're not going to forget this one. No, what I was also going to say, I'm so excited about this. What really annoyed me, nothing to do with Coronation Street, the bloody Liverpool Echo, hope you're listening to this, leaked this about a month ago, didn't they?
Yep.
When Ian McLeod's interviews came out at the beginning of September, the Liverpool Echo put their article online, which was the interview with Todd Boyce. Now, the day that we were at the Coronation Street studios on the Wednesday, that morning, they've been doing some Zoom interviews with press. We've been invited to this. We probably said this on the podcast, I can't remember. So they interviewed Todd, they interviewed Georgia Taylor, they interviewed Martin Hancock, they interviewed Ian McLeod. And Ian's interview was published at the beginning of September, and all the other ones were like embargo whatever dates. Todd's interview was embargoed for 9 o'clock this week. But the Liverpool Echo said, no, we're going to publish it in September. And the article was online for a couple of hours and then it was pulled. So somebody had contacted them and like, what the hell are you doing publishing this? This is a massive spoiler. We don't want to reveal this. Unfortunately then, some people on the Digital Spy Soaps forum got hold of this information. So there was a big old thread there where people were openly discussing that Stephen was going to kill Leo and drop him in a bin. So I was like mega disappointed that this secret got out. Not just because it was like me saying, this is my secret and nobody else is allowed to know this, but I just feel so bad for Coronation Street because they don't often try to keep huge things like this secrets, do they? They like to tease you with everything big that's going to happen to get you to watch. So the fact that they tried desperately to keep this a secret until the night, but they failed because Liverpool Echo couldn't stick to an embargo, really kind of got my goat. And if I was working in the Coronation Street publicity department, I would have been seething at that. So don't let them onto the Zoom calls again, Coronation Street, please. You can't trust them.
I just felt really bad for whoever it was that had done this, because obviously didn't do it on purpose.
I know. It was an accidental
Some poor
one.
kids now just been blacklisted from soaps forever, which of course will have a terrible impact on their career in journalism. But yeah, what a bloody mistake that was.
Yeah. But it doesn't feel... I don't think that it got very much further than that. I certainly didn't see anyone discussing... I don't think I saw anyone discussing it on Reddit. I don't look at very many other Corrie forums or anything online because they're all sort of... got spoilers all over the place, but yeah, I think it was fairly well contained, so hopefully for a large portion of the audience it was kept a secret, yeah. Although the previews for this week were like for Wednesday's episode, I think for Mondays it might have said Stephen confronts Leo on the balcony, what will happen, and then Wednesdays it's like, oh, Jenny's wondering where Leo is. So I'm sure some people kind of put two and two together and said, oh, I wonder if Stephen kills Leo, but it was really, really brilliant. And the 100th on-screen death on Coronation Street as well.
Woo!
I wonder whether the people who wrote the episode knew that when they were planning it. Probably not. Matt Hilton didn't even know. I told him that the other day. But great stuff. And all of the tension that followed the death on Monday's episode going into Wednesday was brilliant, because usually when they have something huge like that happen, like a big murder or whatever, it's at the end of the episode, isn't it, or towards the end, yeah. and that's the cliffhanger, and you have to say, you have to wait another 2 days to find out what's going to happen next. But with this, we got the murder with still half an hour to spare, so we got to revel in the panic washing over Stephen for the rest of the episode. And those scenes in the bistro where he's listening in to Jenny and Rita and Daisy wondering where Leo is, and Stephen's just there at the bar going, bloody hell, I know exactly where he is, he's dead in a bin. The bit where he goes, he's leaving the bistro and Jenny comes out and is like, oh, what have you been up to? And he's like, oh. And then when he gets to the factory and Carla's there with the police, I love that. I love the scene inside the factory when he thinks that, well, the police must have found the body by now. Surely they're gonna notice this. I loved it all. It was so well done. So I was so tense. I can't sing its praises enough. I thought it was just absolutely brilliant. And whosever's idea it was to have Sarah Louise, of all people, come in and witter in Stephen's ear. Well, he's there just having this meltdown and she doesn't realise at all. Just to raise that tension a little bit more. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. But thank you, Sarah Louise. You can shut up now.
Oh, you know what? Adam never listens to me. I don't understand why. I'm trying to talk to him about stuff and he's just like, shut up, Sarah. And I'm like, well, I don't just want to say what I want to say. And he's like, no, I don't want to hear you. And I'm like, well, remember that time that you had that?
If I'm Stephen, I'm going to be murdering you right now.
And then you fell off the side of the thing and I was like, oh, no, I don't. And he's like, oh, I
Can we
actually
have just a moment of silence?
No. What
for Leo? Was it worth keeping him around for a year? He outstayed his welcome after his first couple of episodes, didn't he? Was it worth keeping him just so that we could have this? And I'm kind of thinking yes. And all through the year we were like, why is Jenny still going out with Leo? Why have they put those two together? What on earth? What, he's nothing. And then he goes away for months on end and then he comes back and he's just a useless character.
There's a scene that often crops to my mind from Addams Family Values where the little blonde girl and Wednesday are queuing up to go and do life-saving on the side of the lake. And they have the person who's drowning and the person has to save them. And the girl goes, I'll be the victim. And Wednesday Adam goes, all your life. And that's Leo.
That's Leo, is it? The perennial victim. Well, Jenny. 2 bereavements in less than a year.
You must be a soap character.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad for her in a sense.
I
and obviously I love Jenny and I don't like her upset, but
I just don't want her to think it's her fault. I wanted to know he was murdered immediately because it's bad for her self-esteem to think she was dumped.
Yeah, I know, but there's just the line that they had with Daisy saying he was a bit boring though.
That was great.
I can't remember who wrote that. Was that the
Jan McVerry
and
did that one? Harvey did Wednesdays.
Yeah, and it wasn't that, was it? So it must have been Jonathan. It was just like, yes, you are speaking on behalf of all of you. That he was totally boring.
Well, Joe Frost did a really great job with what he was given, but the part of Leo was never supposed to, win awards for best newcomer. No. I just wonder, what's going to happen next with Jenny, and is she going to get over him just as quickly as she seemingly got over Johnny? When are we going to... We haven't spoken at all together even about this. What's the future for Leo's... Is everyone just going to forget he ever existed? Because it feels a bit like it could go that way. Are they going to start being suspicious? Is Teddy going to go to the police and say, my son's missing?
Well, I think he is. I mean, Jenny and Daisy have been trying to contact him, but to no avail. Stephen's got his phone, obviously, with its everlasting battery on.
If the police can track his phone...
Well, yeah, that's a really good point, actually, because Teddy says, well, I'm going to wait to get... I assume my son is going to phone me when he gets to Canada. So next week, if he's not heard back from him, he's going to I don't know what's going on with my son at the moment. If he knew where in Canada, rather than just nebulous somewhere over there, he's supposed to be going
Canada is it's quite small.
It's quite small and compact.
Easy to narrow it down.
No, I mean he's going to know where Stephen is, so he should be able to contact someone and wherever Leo was going to work. And then no, he's not turned up. So if the police then do try and track Leo's phone and find out, it's in Stephen's pocket.
The first thing, Teddy will go, right, so-and-so company, what can you get? I want to talk to my son, I haven't heard from him. They'll say, he never arrived. Then Teddy will go, okay, I'll contact the police. The police will then contact the passport office or the airport and say, did this guy ever turn up for his flight? And they'll say, no, he's not registered as turning up. But then they'll say, where was he last seen? Who was the last person who saw him?
Well, it was Gabrielle, wasn't it? But that was a secret meeting.
So Gabrielle...
Oh, no, sorry, that was Gabrielle that saw Stephen. What am I talking about, idiot?
Gabrielle didn't know he was there, but Leo was watching. So on Monday, he was around, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So the last person that wasn't Stephen who saw Leo.
It was Daisy and Daniel, wasn't it, in the pub? That was when I think.
No.
And Teddy. It was all them in the Rovers there on Monday. I don't think they're going to be able to offer much in
but they're gonna. But that will be the last place that anybody ever saw him, was in Weatherfield, and they're not going to be able to say, like, for example, who was the taxi firm that was booked to take him to the airport? They're going to say, well, no, he never turned up.
Mm. Yeah.
So
exactly.
the Weatherfield is going to be the last place anybody saw Leo alive, and then they're going to have to trace it back from them. And if Gabrielle had any inkling that he was there, which she probably didn't.
No, she didn't. She didn't know who was there. Very interesting. I'm wondering now, and this is my other hope, like, I guess, is Jenny going to start developing feelings for Stephen again? Because she did kind of give him a forgiveness drink, didn't she?
A forgiveness drink? That sounds a bit rude.
Earlier today.
Well...
And it just feels... it really ticks all my boxes to
definitely...
have the landlady going out with the serial killer. That's how you make a serial killer story different. You literally put him in bed with the landlady of the Rovers Return. And this is the long-awaited Jenny story, because we've been saying for years, what's going on in the Rovers? Put Jenny there, but don't give her any stories there. I just got a really excited, tingly feeling that this could be Jenny's mega story. Stephen Reed by her side in the Rovers, quietly bumping off Gabrielle Reed and Elaine Jones and somebody else. That really excites me.
Can I just say, the last person who saw Leo alive was the estate agent.
Oh,
which is really intriguing.
Yes,
because
it was.
Because that links him to Stephen immediately.
Yeah.
So maybe your long-term storyline with Stephen is going to come to an end pretty soon, because there's just a really concrete link between the two, where Leo phoned up and said, "Hello, I'm Leo," didn't he? "I'm Leo, Stephen's assistant."
I don't know whether he gave his name,
but he certainly used his own number,
and he used his own face. So if they put on the news, "Have you seen this man?" then a estate agent would be like, "Yeah, I was having a drink for him."
And then the police will be like, "Stephen, why are you selling Audrey's house? Why are you getting Leo to be your assistant?"
That's
and he'll
true,
be like,
actually.
"Oh, I don't know."
Oh gosh, the walls could be closing in on him quick, but I do not want that.
I don't want that. I want him to murder more.
Yes, and then Gail can have been married to a serial killer and be related to a serial killer at the same time. She just can't catch a break, can she? Oh, I'm really sorry for all the people that don't like this sort of thing on Coronation Street, but we really do, and I need something to get me excited and bubbling about Coronation Street again, and this could be it. So long may it continue. I think every time this story came on screen this week, it was like, yes, thank you very much. When you get these times where it's like, I don't care about any other stories, show me this one. So that's enough.
Speaking of other stories.
Speaking of other stories, other things did happen on Coronation Street this week, including the glorious arrival of one Dee-Dee Bailey, which we have been anticipating for the last 3 odd years or so on the podcast. We get to see her finally turn up this week, but we have to get through Mondays first before her arrival on Wednesday. And on Monday's episode, James, sad, down in the dumps about not being a footballer anymore. What's he going to do now? He can't do football. He's got nothing to go for him. As the Aggie says, don't give up, son. You're still part of the club after all. I don't understand or care to try and understand the legalities about, is he on the club, is he not in the club, whatever. She says, look, you could still use their time. You could still use his facilities. Get yourself fit again. Get built up in the gym or whatever, I don't remember. Then kick him to the curb and find another club. And he's like, oh, what's the point in that? I'm never going to be as good a player as I used to be. I had my knee injury and now I've got my heart defect or whatever. Oh, so he's a bit negative about himself, really. And then he heads over to the pub later and he's watching some classic James Bailey clips. I don't know whether he heads over to the ITV Corrie YouTube page for this, but there's a couple of James Bailey moments there that he watches, and Michael's there as well, and he says, "Oh, that guy there, that classic character, he's gone forever." Sarah comes over and says, "Oh, I'm glad to see you back on your feet, because by the way, you're Lily's favourite player." So there's a bit of character development for you this week. Lily likes football. Who'd have guessed?
Wow.
I don't know why they picked her. With the actors who play Liam and Jake and that lot just not available this week, or
it's all part
they're just
of
saying girls can play football too.
Exactly. It's like, guess what, everybody?
Of course they can, but I don't know. Lily doesn't strike me as somebody who's really into football, but
Well, listen.
what do I know?
Well, women are pretty good at football, Michael.
I know.
I've seen them winning competitions that our male team cannot seem to crack.
So have I. But anyway, so if she wants to have
Maybe
James Bailey as a favourite,
I mean, it would have made sense if they'd said, if they'd thrown in some line about, you know, she's been football crazy ever since the Euros, but maybe they said like,
I don't know.
Understand football, I didn't listen.
Anyway, so we'll then get a scene of the Bailey men together, talking about James's future in the pub. Michael says, look, just take things easy for the moment, stay on the team, see how you feel after a bit. And James is like, oh, I don't really know. Back at home, James wants to make a phone call to the pub, to the club. He says, Aggie, bugger off. I need to talk to my boss. And she's there sneaking around the corner, which is quite cool. But she says, look, whatever you decide, son, I'm proud of you. I really do have a lot of time for Aggie. I think that she's a very lovely mum. And at the end of the episode, we find out the decision he has made. And yes, he has retired. He's made the decision. He's not staying with the club at all anymore. He's out of here. Club says, thank you very much for all your work. And we're paying the rest of your contract too. And the Baileys are all proud of him and they have a lovely celebration at the end of the episode. However, things take a turn for the worse on Wednesday. Aggie is... I love this scene where Aggie's got the envelope. James has got some post, hasn't he? And she's holding it over the light, and there's a really nicely framed shot of her trying to look through the envelope about what this thing is inside. And but she can't do that for long because someone comes to the door, and it is daughter Dee-Dee Bailey. Oh yes, she is here. She has arrived from America to rain fresh chaos on the street, but oh no, we get to find out just what sort of person she is because she has left all her stuff in the taxi and it's driven off. Yes, she is a bit of a bumbler, but a competent bumbler apparently because she's also a bit of a hotshot lawyer too. So she rushes outside, Shona offers to help her out, so Dee-Dee and Shona now friends apparently. And kind of the problem sort of resolves itself because the taxi comes back and she gets her things back. So that was a bit of a drama for nothing for a little bit. James is chuffed to see his sister when he gets home, and then he opens the letter and it is a cheque from the club, but not the full amount that he was expected. In fact, we find out it's barely anything. This was another one of those episodes where they talk about nebulous amounts of cash, don't they? I've received a cheque for not enough. I'm going to make you an offer of a bit more. We've got no idea what these numbers are.
I can't believe they've given me £5.56.
Yeah, that's
I wanted £22.
I could have pictured it a bit more.
Dee-Dee, help me.
So he's like, hang on a minute, they said they'd paid my whole contract off and they've only paid for the rest of the month or something like that. Anyway, Dee-Dee immediately gets on the phone to the club to arrange a meeting with this afternoon, acting as James's solicitor. So they head over to the training ground and James has a bit of a moment, doesn't he? He touches the hallowed ground of Weatherfield FC, has a bit of a, oh, I touched the grass, this is what could be my last time. And then they go into the office, which is pretty cool. They had a nice little scene filmed at, I can't remember where the club is now, because it's the one that we went to see on the trip a few years ago, wasn't it?
Closed that now.
I thought they'd closed that. Maybe that's why they were able to get in there. But anyway, it was actually filmed in the office, so very much appreciated. Unless there was a last use of the volume wall to show a football pitch in the background. I don't know, but I assume it was there. And the boss is there saying, well, you know, if I lose a player, that also loses any future transfer revenue. So we can't...
Don't understand what you're talking about.
He says, because I've lost you, I'm not going to be able to sell you on to anybody else.
Is this like when you have a car and you know when people buy a new car and then at the end of the thing they sell their car back and then they get a new car? Is that what he's saying? He's saying it's like, right, so I've got to scrap my car, but I've also got to pay it back.
It's something. No. He's just saying that it's like, rather than sell my car to someone else, I'm going to set my car on fire and explode it and walk away from it looking cool. Yeah. So he says, well, I'm going to lose. I've lost money there. Your contract was withdrawn on health grounds, and I actually think we've made a fairly fair offer here. And Dee-Dee's like, no, hang on a minute. You didn't even get a second medical opinion, and according to this
it was all
blah, blah, blah,
crap.
FIFA something
I think they were right.
They says, no, we're not having any of that. In any case, James was in breach of his contract when he had his little oopsie daisy because he was playing for another team, which was, it's true, but I think that was a little bit harsh. Because this was when he was doing that charity
But they're
thing.
absolutely right here, because I think some people were talking about this on our Facebook group as well. Like, he wouldn't have been allowed to do anything like this because of how dangerous it was, and it literally killed him. So they weren't wrong.
But James says it was just literally a charity thing, though, and
but you didn't ask us, did you?
And Dee-Dee's like, yeah, and look, you've got it on your website, county member James, charity match, whatever, and she says, well, that sounds like tacit approval to me.
Can I just ask a question about this?
You can try, but it's a football question. I don't know if I'll be able to answer you.
So they put on the website that he went to a charity event.
Yeah.
Did they mention he died?
I don't remember.
It feels like burying the lead.
We should have screenshotted that a little bit. I don't know, but
it feels a bit like something you would mention.
Maybe it was tacit approval that he died.
Yeah,
I give that as
good
well.
Good job.
Anyway, also she says with him going, that you're going to be losing a load of money from deals because, he
sponsors him.
Well, they said he was the first out footballer in the professional league. And they've made some deals based on this, and that's all going to be gone. So he's actually a really, really valuable player to you. I suggest, says Dee-Dee.
That means they're losing more money, so they shouldn't give him any.
No, I don't know.
Well, that's like saying, oh yeah, your cash cow's now gone because he buggered around and died on a football pitch he shouldn't have been on. No, so give me more money. And they're like, no, it doesn't work like that. We've lost out on the money as well.
Whatever.
Why should we pay you?
She says, I think that this, here's a little bit of paper,
I think
would be a more suitable offer from
£26.73.
Imagine if that's all it was at the end.
And they look at each other like, can't give you more than 25. And she's like, we'll take it.
And then she's like, turns to him and says, well, you're not David Beckham, are you, James? Let's face it.
And then she passes him a bit of paper and he opens it and it says, fee, £50.
Yeah. Anyway, so they head off and she's like, I expect a response within 24 hours. And then they go out and do a little ooh together outside the door. So they go back to the cafe and this Dee-Dee says, I will waive your fee if you coach Lily, because she's obviously been having words with new Bezzy mate Shona.
The fact that they've both gone off to the cafe to celebrate their victorious lambasting of these evil football people makes me think that whatever money they're going to get off them is not going to be that much. This was a guy who was driving around in a sports car.
Yeah, that's true.
The other year, worth tens of thousands of pounds.
I got no idea how much James is worth.
I don't know anything about these little clubs and how much all the footballers are worth, but really, really feels to me like even if he'd stayed there, I don't see what kind, how much money is he really on?
I don't know.
And did he never, ever, ever, at any point, any of them, even Aggie and Ed, ever go, what are you going to do afterwards? Because you can't be a footballer.
Mm.
And, once you're 40...
Yeah.
What are you going to do after that? And he's like, I don't know. Did he not have a backup plan?
Clearly not.
It's because he's the looks of the Baileys, isn't he? He's not the brains.
Yeah, he's going to do all the aftershave adverts on TV and everything, isn't he? I reckon. And,
I don't think he
match of the day commentating.
I don't think he could sell me off. I don't believe he.
Anyway, so he gets convinced to give Lily this football training. She's dead keen. It all goes well. We don't get to see any of it, of course. But he goes home and he's like, I had a jolly good time there coaching Lily how to kick a ball. And then he gets a phone call from the club and then saying, we are increasing your payout. Not saying how much, but we do know from James that it is beyond his wildest dreams.
The way he said
maybe
this,
40 quid.
The way he said this made me think that James Bailey's wildest dreams is like, I had a dream last night that Mum made me a fish finger sandwich and it tasted good.
This is even better than that.
Like, do you know what I mean? It's like they're offering me a payout beyond my wildest dreams.
What this reminded me of...
What do you mean?
What this reminded me of is that bloody Robbie Williams when he signed... Do you remember when he signed that massive record deal for £80 million? And he comes out doing his press conference going, I'm rich beyond my wildest dreams. And I bloody hate Robbie Williams.
I know, I love how much
Robbie
you hate
Williams...
him.
God, he's worse.
If you want to wind Michael up,
worse than Leo.
Tell him that you can't wait for his funeral when you're going to play Angels.
Robbie Williams, oh man, he gets on my last nerve. So when he was there going, I'm mega rich, I got 80
Do you
million
remember that
pounds.
cool song he did, Millennium?
And he's at bloody number one again this
What's
week,
he done?
isn't he? He's going to put his like 15th album out or something.
Oh, I love it.
And he's like got more number one albums than any. Oh,
I love the
fucking
fact, the
bloody
thing about Robbie
overrated
Williams that always
little
makes me laugh is if you talk to Americans, they're like, oh, what, that one-hit wonder guy?
Yeah.
It's like, no, he's
She's
actually
a one-hit wonder guy
incredibly famous.
He has got some fairly good songs, but his ego. Oh my gosh, he's the most. This isn't a Robbie Williams bashing podcast. I could go on about him.
What if
forever.
Robbie Williams listens to our podcast and he's really sad?
Oh damn, we just lost a listener there.
He's going to give us a 1-star review.
Sorry, I'll take that one. I'll take the fall for that one.
I'll
if
take
he
that.
does. So anyway, that's what that reminded me of. But they all go.
Can I just say for the record, I don't have a problem with Robbie Williams. In fact, I actually really like him because of how much it winds Michael up.
Stop it! Don't ever play me a Robbie Williams song. Don't ever introduce me to Robbie Williams.
Oh, do you remember
because
that
I'll have
great
to be
song
nice
he
to
did
him.
with what's her face? And afterwards we go.
Oh, Nicole Kidman, yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway, they all go and spend James's rich beyond his wildest dreams money in the Rovers because they're simple folk. Friday.
he's got to keep that money. He's got to start putting it in his ISA and premium bonds.
Friday, I don't know where he's been all this time, but as soon as there's a snifter of money, Ronnie Bailey appears.
It's like, buy me a rum.
Yeah, can you buy me a shirt that fits me better, please?
Can you buy me a hat?
I need a new. I was gonna say I need a nice new hat, says Ronnie. No, he's like, how you doing, James? What you gonna do now anyway then? And Ed's like, oh, he's
I
pretty
feel sorry for this
directionless.
kid. He's like, he's literally Wednesday. He gets paid crap load of money because he's just retired from his job, and on Friday they're like, when are you gonna get a job? When are you gonna get a job? It's like, actually, I'm just gonna watch Lorraine if you don't mind.
Yeah, look, Sally Ann Matthews is on it this week. It's great.
I want to see if she mentions me.
What would she say? If anyone needs harassing about get a job, it's bloody Toya Battersby, isn't it?
Yeah, what a lazy bum.
Yeah, she totally is. Anyway, James is like, I'm not going to work for you at the Builders Yard, Dad. Sorry. I
don't work at the
particularly
bistro.
fancy working at the bistro where you might be able to get me a
But
job.
sorry, James, those are the only jobs, unless you want to work in marketing in the factory.
Yeah, you got to work somewhere on this street,
Do you want
James.
to be
Did
an
nobody
activist?
explain this to you before you decided to resign from the club? And he's like, no, I thought the world was my oyster. No, this street is your oyster, James. Unless
you
you
got
want
from here to Rosamond Street. I hear they need a new receptionist at the doctor's if you can handle sensitive information.
Anyway, so Dee-Dee. Oh, no, that's later. He although he poo-pooed the idea of working at the bistro earlier, he decides, oh yeah, okay, it's the lesser of the two evils out of this and being a builder, so I will go for that job after all.
This job is beyond my wildest dreams.
Yes. So he goes over there and Debbie gives him an interview. Well, it's not really an interview, is it? Because
he just says, I don't want to work
he
here.
basically, before it even starts, he says, don't want to work here. Sorry for wasting your time.
Can I just say, James, this only works when you're interviewing for the job of being the new betrothed of the local fancy Lady Bonbon who you're trying to get her niece in bed, and you tell her that you don't care about her fancy horses and her afternoon tea, and then she gets all snooty, but when you leave she goes, I quite liked that kid. He was full of vim and vigour.
Well, Debbie's
going to
certainly not
leave
going to be
him.
knocking on his door.
I'm going to leave him 50 horses and my full estate.
So he's given up on that idea, and he dumps Debbie to go and take Lily for another training session because she's such a character, and he comes back later and's like, oh, I've had a revelation. I've had a Damascus moment here. I want to be a football coach for children. Hooray!
Great.
And then they all disappear off to the pub because Aggie's making her shepherd's pie, which was a couple of funny moments there, wasn't there? Who was it that mimed eating a shepherd pie to Ed because he didn't have a good enough excuse to get out of it? Anyway, at the end of the episode, he goes and gives Debbie some flowers to say sorry for wasting your time earlier, and then he tells Ronnie about becoming a football coach. Ronnie's like, good on you, my son. And that's basically it there. So, Dee-Dee. Now, she does obviously have quite an impact in the Stu've storyline later, so I guess we'll talk a bit more about her then. But what did you think? Did she live up to your expectations? Could she possibly?
The thing about it is that we already met her, and we'd already seen a few. Like, we'd seen Shanique filming a scene.
Yes, which still hasn't been on yet.
But I knew a tiny little bit about how she acted in that scene, and what she was wearing definitely gave me a very big clue that the character of Dee-Dee was not who I thought she was going to be, because the sort of wardrobe that she wears it felt quite casual, the stuff that she was wearing when we saw her filming, and a very kind of modern, like, young woman kind of like look, not like professional lawyer kind of.
I was expecting her, from what they talked about her before, to become in like being suited and booted, hot shot lawyer, very professional, very slick.
Yeah, and like the beginning of a Hallmark movie where she goes back home and falls in love with a lumberjack.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of character.
But yeah, we'd seen her, we'd met Shanique, we'd been told various things about her from people who'd met her on the cast, and Ali Sinclair talked a bit about her as well.
Ali told us what the character's kind of remit was and what she was going to be like, and so she definitely lived up to that expectation that I had of her, but the expectation of Dee-Dee, going all the way back to the very beginning of the Baileys and how much we've spoken about Dee-Dee and what she was going to be like, she's absolutely nothing at all like we thought she would be.
And I don't know whether that was our fault and we made
it definitely was
a picture in our head, or I can't remember what they said about her. I mean, they said she was swanning. They did say that she was in LA, wasn't she, doing her hotshot lawyering, and she was kind of Michael and James have said, she's you're the favourite child or whatever, because she's made something of her life, and this version of Dee-Dee still clearly has. She's clearly very competent at her job. I thought it was a very good idea to have her get straight in there with the football club story, as dodgy as some of the legalities might have been there for anybody who works in the legal profession. I didn't really notice, but having her come in and say, well, this is what I'm about.
It was a great way to introduce the character, wasn't it? To sort of go, she's
throw into the thick of it, to show that she isn't as incompetent as you might think that she could be.
Why would you think she's incompetent?
Well, no, just because she's a bit forgetful.
No, that's not how she was represented at the beginning. What are you talking about?
Well, no, the first thing that happened, the very first scene, she's like, "Oh bloody hell! I've left my suitcase in the taxi." You think, who is this joker?
No, I don't know.
And then there was a bit in today's episode where she knocks the glass of water over.
I know there've been bits and hints about her messing stuff up and undermining herself, but I mean, I will say she feels very approachable and very down to earth. Like, she's the sort of person I look at and I'm like, when you saw Imran or Adam, you're like, oh wow, I know that they seem to know what they're doing. Whereas when I see Dee-Dee, I'm like, I think I could be a lawyer.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But yeah, even though she was very effervescent and seemingly a little bit bumbly. I mean, it was both Ali and, I said to us, and Ian McLeod said in the interview, was like she'd take down a team of opposing lawyers in court, but then when the case is over, you realise that she's got her skirt tucked into her knickers or something. So she's kind of that sort of person, and from what we saw of her this week, that definitely does go. And although it doesn't match exactly what I thought about her,
I like it.
I think I quite like this direction they're taking her with
this quirk of she's a competent lawyer by day, but she's also an idiot by night. Like, that will last about a month, and then they'll forget, and then she'll just do whatever the plot requires of her.
I like that she's a bit of ray of sunshine. She's got a lot of energy.
She's really smiley and happy.
Yeah, and you can tell that Shanique is very excited to be on Coronation Street.
Yeah.
And her Instagram this week has been full of saying, "Oh look, I'm on Coronation Street," and people congratulating her for being on,
really
and everything,
exciting.
which was lovely. Yeah, it must be. So not what I expected, but I'm reserving judgment for the moment.
I absolutely have no. I mean, I sort of shed all my expectations of Dee-Dee once we'd met Shanique and had been told what the character was going to be, because a lot of the stuff that we had spoken about, Dee-Dee this and Dee-Dee that, is all just made up in our heads.
She felt like she definitely belonged with the family, even though she was an outsider. She definitely felt like there was a good relationship there between her and.
Well,
and
she
Michael
also
and James
managed
and
to
the
like
parents.
immediately bridge the Bailey gap.
Well, yeah, by
She
getting
like
involved.
spoke to more people on the street than the whole lot of them have ever done in the whole time they've been there.
That is very true. She's like, "Hello, are you Shona? Are you a Bailey?" Oh,
and
I'll talk
then
to you
Aggie
anyway.
comes out and goes, "Don't talk to them.
We
We're
only
not
have
allowed to talk
stories
to
and
the
I
other
chat about."
characters."
Yeah, no, that's true. That was cool. So, I mean, do you think it's a coincidence that she's been dropped into the program mere months after we lost Imran? Is she going to be up there with Adam? Can you imagine Adam working with her? She'd drive him bonkers, wouldn't she?
I think that I want that to happen.
They are, yeah. Actually, that's true.
But then Sarah will come up and be like, Dee-Dee, I just want to tell you about the time that me and my uncle were having dinner in the bistro. It was really
Oh, there we
interesting.
go,
And
yeah.
then Jenny was there and she was talking to Daisy and Daniel was there as well. And I was like, oh my God, Dan. I can't
thing
believe
is,
it.
Dan-
And then he was like, oh, distracted. And I was like, Uncle Stephen, I'm talking to you. And he was like, oh, sorry, Sarah, I'm kind of busy. And I was like, Uncle Stephen, you know.
We know that Adam's really struggling at the moment in the lawyers. They've made insinuations over the past few months that he's got too many cases building
too
up.
much paperwork.
Yeah, and so even though Dee-Dee is by far, not the sort of person that he'd wants to be working with, I think that he's got no choice. I mean, maybe he could have tried a bit harder because there might be other solicitors somewhere in the Greater Manchester area. Yeah, possibly. But
He can only hire someone who lives on the street.
This one's now showed up on his doorstep, so I would say he would be foolish to refuse her services when clearly she is fairly competent.
So, but my question is, why is she here, and what happened in America?
I can't remember whether they said why'd she just turn up out of nowhere.
And how long is
just
she
on a
staying?
visit, or?
Because I'm assuming that she's just here now forever.
Oh yeah, me too. I've got absolutely no idea. But
how much sense does it make to you that somebody can go from being a high-flying lawyer in Los Angeles to coming to Weatherfield and bunking up in their mum and dad's spare room in a terraced street?
Well, it's a little bit like Glenda, really, isn't it? Who is, they like their effervescent ladies this year, don't they, for the new characters? But she also came in as like, well, what are you doing here, Glenda? Yeah, you've had a bit of a fallout with somebody on the ships, but.
They all
You're
come in
staying
and
now,
like,
then?
you won't believe the amazing life I've had before I came here, but now I'm perfectly content.
Slum it in Weatherfield. So yeah, I do quite like her, but we'll see. I think I like Glenda a little bit more at the beginning, but we will see how it goes.
Well, we'll find out at the end of the year when we give the A Up award.
We
for
will,
Best New
because I think
Character.
it's going to go to one of those two, I imagine.
Well, who else is new?
Not so many new other characters this year. But yeah, we've got a few months to, might be able to
some more
sneak
people,
somebody else
might
in.
be some new ones.
Do you think that James made the right decision to retire from the
Oh
club?
God, yeah, no, I don't care.
I did appreciate
Whatever he does.
I mean, think it was nice to see the smiles on his faces afterwards. I like that.
The smiles on his faces.
The smile on his on the Baileys' faces.
Why did he want to be a footballer in the first place? I feel like I don't feel like he's had any emotional reaction to the fact that he is like. There's been no financial fallout either. He hasn't got any long-term plans. He hasn't said, oh no, my life goal was this, that and that. Or,
no.
I mean, presumably he was on quite a lot of money because he was able to buy the sport car or look at the sports car. So we're talking, tens of thousands of pounds more than the average wage, surely, because most people can't afford a sports car. Mind you, most people don't live with their parents when they're a professional footballer. So he's saving a bit there, I think.
Yeah.
So that's a massive financial hit. He hasn't gone, oh, the sort of lifestyle I was kind of expecting for myself and had been accustomed to. I need a job that pays about this much. He's like, oh, I can just go from being a professional footballer to working in the bistro. He doesn't seem sad about it. I mean, he touched the grass, but I'd be crying. Like, if somebody said to me, that thing that you'd worked really hard for your whole life and sacrificed. I mean, he'd mentioned it a few times, but he didn't seem sad about it. He did say, I worked hard for this. But, I mean, he didn't cry, didn't...
You asking for more Bailey scenes?
He just seemed to totally have taken it in his stride, which is fine. But it just feels a bit Forrest Gumpy, like, oh well, I guess I'm going to run around the country for 10 years now. Oh no, my girlfriend's dead. I guess I'll just open a shrimp restaurant. You know what I mean? It's like, are you having any emotional reaction to this whatsoever?
He kind of looked almost a little bit sad at one point. But yeah, I don't know, anyway.
But James Bailey is just a lost cause.
Very much so, yeah.
I don't care about him.
You go teaching Lily how to play football, James. You go for it.
Even that's not interesting.
Well, let's move on then. Let's do the Kaadi storyline, Gemma. Another one which had on Monday multiple scenes that we saw filmed. So
the thing is about this is that we've spoken about these scenes and watched these scenes and discussed these scenes together and recorded podcasts where we talk about these scenes. So talking about them again feels really weird to me, and that's why I'm getting really confused. That's why I got confused about the Stephen stuff.
Yeah.
So, okay. On Monday, Dev and Asha with Ardy, who got shot in the volume wall, and he's still hurting because Kelly abandoned him and he doesn't want to speak to anybody. Then we see Gary and Maria, and this is the scene that we got to see filmed, and again, the bonus podcast talks about what we saw and what they were doing and how they filmed all this.
It's really worth a listen. I think we get more downloads for our Street Talk episodes and the bonus podcasts generally, but if you're interested at all in behind the scenes stuff, please do listen to our bonus podcast this week. Because I think there's some nice little tidbits there.
You might think we've said everything there is to say, but trust me, there's a lot more that we haven't said that you can hear in the bonus podcast. So anyway, Gary and Maria in the flat, and they're like, oh, what should we do? Kelly's gone. Where is she? The other thing that I'm finding confusing about this is that these scenes we speculated about how they got to this point of the plot like a month ago before any of this happened. So I'm forgetting the context of this originally because all the stupid theories that we came up with are still boiling around in my head.
Yeah.
So Kelly's gone, they don't know what to do, and then Dev comes in. And Dev has a massive go at Gary because Ardy has been shot, and Gary's like, oh, he's just collateral damage, nobody meant to hurt him. And he's like, what do you mean collateral damage? And Gary says that nobody's coming in after Ardy.
I remember when I heard that line when we were at the recording and thinking, oh, Gary, you shouldn't have said that, that's a bit harsh.
Nobody
calling
wants to
Ardy
hear their son was
damage.
collateral damage. And Dev's like, look.
Kaadi damage. I'll let you carry on.
Okay. He's like, please, Gary, we're both parents. Surely you understand how I'm feeling. Can you please go and talk to Ardy to convince him that there's no future between him and Kelly? So Gary does go. He goes to the hospital, and Ardy tells Gary he's just been getting Kelly's voicemail, trying to phone her, and she won't pick up. And Gary says, look, she doesn't want anything to do with you anymore. She wants a clean break, a new life. Dev's there, he's listening. Ardy doesn't understand. He's so innocent and sweet. He took a bullet for that girl. And Kelly told him that she loved him, so he doesn't understand why she would now abandon him. And Dev says, she was lying, Gary, tell him. And Gary then lies to Ardy as well and says,
no, he's
like, I can't do it. And then Dev says, Kelly told Gary that she didn't even know if she loved you or not, which is a lie. And he sort of speculates that they were caught up in the competition of get a free holiday or whatever it was for being engaged. And Ardy won't accept it, and he starts crying, and he says, Dev, you're lying, oh Dad. And Gary's like, sorry mate.
That was so sad.
I felt really bad. His little heart got broken.
I felt bad for all of them in this, apart from maybe Gary the murderer. But poor Dev having to lie to his son.
Tell his son that
for his own
good.
Safety, yeah.
Oh, poignant. Bernie finds Dev at home after visiting Ardy, and she's like, sorry, by the way, I was kind of telling him about the other day. Well, I broke this golf trophy. And
it's a really tacky looking trophy as well, wasn't it?
I couldn't find the head, so I just made a new one. And
oh yes, it was, wasn't it? Yeah,
and she sellotaped this head on, and he's like, I can't believe this! That was Ardy's first ever trophy. How did you think that you could just stick another head on the top?
Yeah, it's like the under-8s trophy. I mean, it's true.
He said, around here we don't swap heads with people. And she's like, Dev, I think you might find...
Yeah, she should have said, it was just a classic Corrie head
she
swap.
Should be like,
Ardy had one.
He's got a new head, but it looks the same to me. So,
I mean, to be fair... I know it was kind of supposed to be funny and everything, but I think in real life, nobody would do what Bernie did and think that they were going to get away with it, did they? It looked awful.
Bernie's a bit of a dodger and a diver, isn't she?
Just a tad, yeah.
He chucks her out. Then, for some reason, this motivates Bernie to hunt out Fern's card. Oh, I think it's because she's now got no job. So she needs some money. So she takes Fern up on her offer, which is to do the speed awareness course for her, pretend to be her. So Fern leaves her with all of her stuff so that she can impersonate her at this place. So, back at the flat, Gary debriefs to Maria about talking to Ardy. And they're sort of musing about what they should do. And then DS Beckett comes in and she's like, come to the station, I want to talk to you, I've got some questions.
Just like old times, Gary.
They go to the police station and we get to see the interview, and Beckett's very suspicious of all the events that he's been involved in, and Gary's like, no, don't know what you mean, nothing's dodgy about me, I'm a straight up bloke. And DS Beckett says, you know what I think, Gary? I think you're in this up to your neck. So, doesn't work though, does it? She was bluffing.
Yes.
Gary comes back to Maria. They've not arrested him, they've not done anything. And then they discuss what's going on and how they could be implicated. Then they get a phone call and it's the police, and Kelly's got in touch with them, told them she's fine, she doesn't want to talk to them, and Kieran and Heavy have been charged, and I don't understand why this doesn't then implicate everybody, but don't worry about it anymore, it's fine.
No, Gary's talking to Maria and saying if Kieran and Heavy say that they'd been hired to kill him, then they would get in even more trouble. So they were charged for, causing mischief and shooting Ardy, but yeah, the whole hired assassin thing is a secret at the moment. So Gary's managed to get away with it again, basically. Yeah.
On Wednesday, is it Wednesday?
Yeah.
Stu's talking with Asher about Kelly, and he's upset that she's done a run without saying goodbye because they remember they were homeless together.
Yeah, people were saying after last week's episode, like, why wasn't Stu at the engagement party? So I'm just kind of imagining Bill Fellows wasn't available for there, and they had to put some scene into Wednesday's episode to kind of bring some kind of closure to it.
Asher and Nina go to see Ardy, he's in hospital, and they're trying to convince him that Kelly did love him and it wasn't just an act. And Maria asks Nina how Ardy is when they're in the pub later, and she says, oh, he's really upset because he's messed up about Kelly. Asher and Nina then go back to the hospital to see Ardy, and Asher tells them they should go glamping, and then a nurse comes in and says, have you done a poo? And they'll run away.
She says, how have your bowels been? Have you done a movement recently? That nurse, why would you ask that in front of people who were clearly either his friends or relatives? Come on,
little teenage boy asking in front of a girl.
Yeah, come on. It was funny.
It was funny. But Maria goes to see Ardy, and he says, oh, Kelly never loved me. Maria says that Kelly's had a difficult life. She really did have strong feelings for you. But if you love her, you need to let her free and have the space to go out there and discover what she wants from life. Then we also have Bernie.
So she does. Oh yeah, though. Sorry, I forgot to tell you about this before we started recording. So I didn't know whether this Bernie Double Trouble story was going to be separate, but it all kind of got mingled in together. So that was everything that happened Gary and Maria wise. But meanwhile, on Wednesday, Bernie, Gemma, I'll pass back to you.
Bernie's got to go to this course.
She tells Gemma that she's going to a job interview, doesn't she? A cleaning interview.
All right then. Bernie scrubs up nicely. She heads off, leaves Paul with the kids. The course goes smashingly.
Don't say that on a speed awareness course.
And then as she leaves, and then she kind of trying to get out there really quick, and then a man comes and he's like, Fern, hang on a minute. And she's like, uh-oh, I've been rumbled. And he says, you left your scarf. And she's quite funny because she does all this weird, like, she thinks posh talk to him.
She starts, she's just talking about, oh yeah, all the people at the boutiques in London know me, and I get all my scarves from there. And
I bought this in a fancy London boutique, which is exactly what women who buy their clothes in fancy London boutiques would say.
Yes.
Benny and Fern meet up in the Ginnel, and Fern's very pleased to hear it's gone well, and she hands over the cash. And then she says, oh, here's a voucher for a day in my club if you want. And Benny says, no, I don't want to bring negativity to the universe. Then she goes home and she tells everyone she didn't get the job. And then she she makes out the money that she got from Fern is from a trial period that she didn't succeed at or something.
Yeah. She said, well, I did this cleaning for the interview. I didn't get the job, but they at least paid me to do the cleaning.
Great.
That's the end of that.
So I really like this scene with Bernie and Fern.
Right in the beginning.
We'll talk about it later, won't we?
Okay, yeah.
On Friday, Bernie tries to talk to Dev outside the shop and he doesn't want to talk to her, but she convinces him. They go back to number 5 and Dev admits he's blaming himself for what happened to Ardy. Says, oh, I wish I'd been a better dad. Oh, you know that time I left him in the car to die? After that I promised I would be a better dad, and now look, he's been shot. If I was Dev, I'd say, there's no point even trying then, is there? No matter what I do.
The universe has obviously got it in for Ardy.
Asha finds Chesney in the pub.
That's what Bernie would say.
She's looking for Dev. They head to number 5, and when they get there, oh dear, Bernie and Dev are upstairs, aren't they? They come back down.
Yeah, they do the classic soap thing of coming down. I think they were mostly dressed, weren't they? Usually they're just buttoning up shirts and everything, but the characters just looked like their hair had been a bit bedraggled, wasn't it? But it was very clear what they've been up to up there. And Dev's pants are falling out of his trouser leg, aren't they?
Yeah, and then Bernie grabs it, but he runs off without them. Kind of like Cinderella.
Yeah, you imagine go around the street, whoever these pants fit
will be my husband. So Dev goes to pick up Ardy, and Asha's mad at him because he was supposed to come with her, but he was bonking Bernie. So, but she doesn't tell Ardy that's why they were late. They get back home, and Dev's trying to fall over himself to be a good dad, talking about a father-son tournament at the golf club. And then Bernie comes around with a bag, and Ardy thinks it's for him, and then he's like,
oh, is this a get well present for me? And then it's his pair of his dad pants. That was a little bit rude of Ardy to just start tearing it open before she very, very what's the word? Yeah, presumptuous of him. Yeah.
Ardy has a go at Dev, and Bernie says, "Hang on a minute, look, he's been devastated since you were in hospital.
He did say
loves
devastated,
you, and he came around earlier because he needed someone to talk to, and sometimes he makes mistakes, so leave him alone." And she sees herself out. And then Ardy, Asha and Dev have a reconciliation chat in the cafe. And that's the end of that.
Yes, all's well that ends well for the Alahans. So, I thought that was fairly nice stuff. We'll get to the Bernie stuff later. And Dev, but I don't know whether there's what else do we want to say about our experience of seeing those Gary and Maria scenes filmed, because yes, it was on the bonus podcast episode, but how did you find watching a series of scenes that we'd seen filmed? Because we as they're on, it was another case of we were grinning ear to ear whenever any scenes in Maria's and Gary's flat, and that's the first time that's ever happened, I'll tell you that. And we watched those scenes again today, didn't we? Because we realised that we only
half-watched them.
We were so caught in the moment of we were there, we were watching those scenes, that we didn't necessarily take in exactly what happened in them. So I thought it was just so really, really exciting, but I also enjoyed seeing the in-between scenes, so what actually happened when Gary and Dev went off to the hospital, because we saw the scene in the flat where Dev was saying we need to go to the hospital, but we didn't know what the hospital scene was. We saw Beckett come and take Gary to the police station, but we hadn't seen the interview scene, so it was really interesting piecing it all together, I thought. I've forgotten what I was going to say. How did you find it?
It was very interesting. I mean, I don't have a lot. I mean, the thing is, Michael, I don't know why we've spoken about this so many times.
I know. I
don't have anything more to add.
No.
It was really, really fun. I really enjoyed it. I thought I really liked Samia and Mikey. They were really lovely. They were really friendly as well. And it was really fun to watch them. I learned a lot about just the process of the scenes and how they come together from watching them all, from the very beginning. We got to see these scenes from the rehearsals all the way through to the final kind of edit, cut, not the edit, but we got to sit inside the director's room and watch all the different angles and see how they moved the bits around from the set and moved walls out and
change where the actors were going to be standing or sitting.
People having to come in and out, and the hands in the wrong place, do it again, and all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff about it in the bonus podcast where we talk about it. I just really, really had a great time watching it, and the scenes were interesting, and but it's difficult to really judge them in context because I'm still hung up with all the things I had in my head about what is the scene actually about, who are they talking about, what's this photo, what's going to happen, who are these hired killers, where's Kelly gone, did Gary kill her, etc, etc.
I think out of all of the scenes that we saw there, my favourite one and the best bit was Dev coming in and being angry but also really like desperate and upset and begging Gary to do something about it. And I really felt for him this week because he's always just wanted to be a brilliant dad, especially ever since Anita died, and when he was saying, my son's nearly died twice in the past year, it's like I definitely felt bad for him, and Jimmy put in a great performance there. I felt that the storyline kind of lost momentum a little bit from Wednesday onwards because it felt still, sometimes when they have the big stories on Coronation Street, as soon as the climax episode has been on, it can kind of drop off in the interest stakes, but Monday still had me gripped and it still felt like there was something really big and exciting happening. But the stuff with RD in hospital on Wednesday and the Devon Bernie stuff today wasn't as fun, but yeah, it was good. Do you think that Kelly is going to be back?
No.
Gemma says no. Okay.
I mean, why are you asking me?
Well, I just wonder, but that seems like a sensible thing to ask. Because Maria was saying to Ardy, you know what, she's going to go off, she's going to find herself, discover herself. No, I mean, not now. I know that she's gone, but are you expecting to see her in the future? I hope to. I kind of think that we probably will, but maybe that's just my kind of hope. What were you wanting to say about the Bernie and Fern scene in the Ginnell?
I don't know, is it me or did anyone else pick up on this kind of possible friendship / sexual tension?
What?
I don't know. I just thought that it felt to me like they both kind of wanted a bit more out of this interaction than they got. It's kind of like they didn't want to say goodbye to each other.
Yeah, I didn't pick up that at all.
I remember reading, you know how in South Korea they can clone cats?
Yes. I think I've heard this.
I remember reading a story about somebody who had their cat cloned, and the way this person decided to go about this process was to get the cat cloned when it was still alive. So at any one point they'd have two of the same cat, just replace one when it died, always with the same cat. And apparently the cat, when it met its clone, they loved each other and they just spent the whole time like hugging each other and rolling around with each other. And I just thought, are they like a pair of cloned Korean cats where they love each other because they're so similar?
But I don't know. I mean, I think that Bernie thought that Fern was a bit of a stuck-up cow, didn't she? But you're right. I suppose as they've got to know each other better.
Well, maybe it was me. Maybe it was just me that wanted more.
Maybe it was.
Because I really don't want to say goodbye to Fern. I think she's hilarious. I love this. There's so much mileage in this.
Yeah, but you're right.
And why did she turn down this free? I was expecting this voucher for this country club. I was expecting her to turn up and pretend to be Fern and cause havoc.
I quite liked that she didn't, and although I definitely would like this story and the whole Double Trouble thing to carry on because it feels like there's a lot of mileage to it, I did kind of think, oh yeah, good on you, Bernie, for not taking advantage, I suppose, because I know you've been a bigger fan of Bernie than I have over the past few years, but actually that moment made me think, oh no, okay, you do just, you're not interested in living the high life, you just want to get money for your family. So I thought, yeah, good on you for that. But it did feel a little bit like that's the last that we'll see of Fern. And if it is, then I'm a bit gutted because she seemed like an interesting character. There's surely more than you could do, more that you could do with doubles than can you do my driving awareness course, which we didn't even get to see any of the course. That whole thing with the missing scarf just felt like, well, we need to have something to show that she's been there. Let's have this happen. I mean, I may well be proved wrong. There could be loads more left of this, but I don't know. It felt like it was done. And I suppose, to be fair, this was never on the long-term plan for 2022 at the beginning of the year, was it? It was something that came out when Jane Hazelgrove realised that she and was it Gabrielle something or other, the actress who plays Fern, came up with when they realised that they look similar. So and then they said, can you write a story where she comes in and she's my double? And you can't say, well, let's get rid of the Stephen Reed serial killer storyline or cut it down by half just so we can have this twin storyline in there. So maybe a couple of episodes is all that they could fit in. But I enjoyed them while they were on. And I did think, and you said this as well, didn't you, that Bernie looked quite good when she was all scrubbed up nicely, looking like Fern. And I think she looked...
I just want to submit my complaint to whoever's in charge of Twitter who listens to this. I get so sick and tired of not being able to say anything nice about a female character on Twitter.
I know.
If I say any nice thing about somebody, I immediately get a bunch of people jumping out of the woodwork going, no, she looks horrible. I think she's ugly and horrible. It's like, nobody asked you. Shut up. Who are you?
Yeah, there were a couple of people that were like, no, I think...
What is your problem? Why do you put negativity? Why?
Yeah, I think that Bernie looked great when she was all scrubbed up.
Of course she did.
And she looked a lot more like Fern, because when they had the first encounter, I was thinking, oh, they kind of look similar, but not mega similar. But I think the clothes definitely did help. I just wonder whether this guy from the speed awareness course is going to come back in it again, or I don't know. It feels like it shouldn't be over, but I wouldn't be surprised if it actually is. And now I guess they're going more towards the Bernie and Dev angle again, which Ian McLeod seems to really like the idea of Bernie and Dev together, doesn't he? But he's like, puts it out there for a bit and then pulls it away for another 8 months. Could this turn into something now, do you think? Are they going to actually properly get together?
Who?
Bernie and Dev.
I don't know. Sorry, Michael, I don't feel very well.
Okay.
I told Michael earlier I feel sick, and I'm just really holding on here as hard as I can.
Good job.
And every time I look ill, you look at me and go, "What do you think?"
I'm not meaning to.
I think I don't feel very well.
Okay. Right. Well, do you want me to talk about Stu's Been Framed?
I would love you to.
I'm going to tell you what happened in this storyline, everybody. Stay awake, please. So Alia is off to look over the case files again today. The storyline's not been on for a few weeks. Don't know what they've been doing in the meantime, but Ali thinks it'd be perfect time to go and look through the case files again, just in case they find any extra evidence. I don't know what she thinks she's looking for here. Stu says, look, you're wasting your time, but she's like, no, I'm determined. I'm gonna clear your name. Then Yasmin comes home.
She's looking for a sentence that says, Stu didn't do it. Yeah, that's crossed out.
Yeah, hang on a minute. Then Yasmin comes home. I couldn't remember where she'd been, but apparently it comes out later that she'd been at Kathy's house or wherever she's moved to now, and she's like, oh, what's Speed Dial doing shut? So Stu kind of has a bit of a debrief with Yasmin, and then a few nice scenes of the two of them sitting at the dinner table in number 6 there at an angle we don't often see. But she says, being with Kathy has made me realise we should be grabbing life while we can. Let's do this. We will get Speed Dial back on its feet again. We will get justice for you. Yeah, we can do it. And so we're going to reopen tomorrow. Zidane, go and start handing leaflets out saying 50% off. Spread the word. Speed Dial is back in business. Hooray. I don't really care. So Yasmin and Ali are walking down the street together saying, oh, it really sucks that we still haven't been able to get to the bottom of Stu's case, does it? If only we could afford a decent solicitor. And what do you know? When they go into the pub, there's a solicitor. It's like they put it out into the universe and it provided. It's Dee-Dee Bailey. She's hanging around and Yasmin says, could you like help us out? We haven't got any money. Do you work for free? And we can get you a cut of the compo if we win. And Dee-Dee's like, yeah, I'll give it a look. So Friday, Dee-Dee comes round to talk to Stu, gets the lowdown on the case, and she looks through the evidence box, and where Alia hasn't been able to find any problem with it, even though that seems to be all she's been doing for the last month and a half or so, Dee-Dee immediately finds tons of gaps. She says, right, I'm going to do a thorough investigation on this. So it transpires that at the time of the case, there was hardly anybody that was interviewed. We know that Stu was trapped in this interview room for what, 3 hours was it, or something?
More
you said
than
it was
that.
No, it must have been more than that. 3 days? I don't know. Somewhere between 3 hours and 3 days, Stu was grilled. But that was about it. There was there was a couple of other people that were brought into the story that I don't know whether had been mentioned before. So Charlie, the girl that was murdered, there was her ex-boyfriend. He was described as a bit of an on-again, off-again boyfriend, wasn't he? And he was never checked for an alibi. What was he doing on the night of the murder? It could have been anything. Same with Charlie's dad, who was apparently done for GBH in 2002, but he was never kind of really investigated what he did on the night of the murder. It's becoming clearer and clearer that there's some kind of cover-up here. So Dee-Dee says, well, clearly the next thing that I need to do is go and track down this Lennox and see what I can get out of him. So Alia... Oh, and she also says to Alia, I'm going to go and see Lennox. You go and find Bridget, see if you can get any more information out of her. So Bridget apparently works at a nail bar. I hope it's not one of these slave nail bars that... what's the face? Rachel was running the other year. But there was a bit of a fashion faux pas as well, wasn't there then? Gemma pointed out that Alia...
It wasn't me.
I thought you did. Who was it? Was it me? Who was it? Somebody online? Somebody pointed out that Alia and Bridget were wearing the same purple blazer or something, weren't they? Maybe Alia's hoping to get a job there, I don't know. Anyway, she says... There was something about the night that the murder happened, and when did Stu come in from it, and he didn't wake up Bridget or her mum, and Bridget says, oh, I was sleeping all the way through the night, I don't remember, I can't really be particularly helpful or tell you anything that happened here. So and by the way, I'm not really interested in you quizzing me about this, so bugger off and don't come back again. Dee-Dee, meanwhile, is buried in paperwork at the table at number 3 later, but then she gets this phone call because whoever it is that she's been in touch with has found Lennox's address. So she heads over to number 6 and goes, look, this Lennox lives here. We should go and see him. But then they're like, hang on a minute, maybe we should contact somebody else who knows him first before we go barging in like a bull in a china shop. But Stu, who hears about this address being uncovered, kind of sneaks off and goes to have it out with Lennox himself. So he arrives at this massive house, starts banging on the door, but rather than DS Lennox opening, it's a lady, it's his wife, Margaret, who pretends, pretends that he's an old colleague of Lennox from the Force, and she says she doesn't believe him, and then she never called it the Force either, and neither did he, and also you're a bit late because my husband died last year. But it's a lie, because as Stu leaves, he hears Lennox. Did we have a first name for Lennox? I don't know. I can't remember. She hears him in the garden, and Stu goes into the garden, and Lennox is like, who are you? And Stu says, your worst nightmare, pal. Ooh, so threatening. So Stu's like absolutely livid, and he explains to Lennox who he is. And I was starting to get an idea early on that there was something not quite right here, because Lennox is just going, Margaret, Margaret. He was like the Little Britain character. And it's like, he's not responding to anything that Stu's saying. Is he kind of all right in the head? But Margaret eventually comes out and says, look, he doesn't remember you. He's got dementia. Can you please leave us? Alia and Dee-Dee, eventually by this point, they've realised where Stu must be, so they kind of get there and drag him out. Stu has a bit of a sad moment, feeling sorry for himself in Victoria Gardens when they go back to the street, and Alia kind of sits to and listens to him talk about his dad and how he never showed his feelings, and he has a bit of a cry himself, and I miss Bridget so much.
He said his dad never expressed emotion until he got sent down, and then he cried.
Yes, that's it. That was it, wasn't it? And Alia says, look, don't give up. We'll manage this. And then from behind them, coming out the tram stop, we can see there's Bridget. So it seems that she's had a bit of a change of heart. The next scene in this story is at Speed Dial, where Stu goes and tells Yasmin that he's giving up. And Yasmin says, no, never surrender or whatever. And then, very handily, Bridget comes down the stairs and she's also had a change of heart and decided that he can indeed meet his granddaughter Eliza. And he says, yes, please, thank you very much, that'd be lovely. And she says, oh yeah, Alia convinced me earlier, so well done Alia for that. But she says, like, I don't want Eliza to grow up with an estranged granddad because I've not known you, my dad, all these years, and I don't want to deny Eliza, the chance to have a relationship with you, so I'll bring her round tomorrow. And the final shot of the episode is Stu going, hooray, I'm going to meet my granddaughter. and that's the cliffhanger that they put us in to try and hook us in to watch Monday's episode. Not the strongest one, but a happy moment for Stu. I really, really want to enjoy this story, and it's not that I don't particularly like all the characters that are involved, and it is also about a murder and everything, which I really like, but I think it's just maybe the pacing of it or something is off, and it's just not gripping me. I did enjoy the twist with Lennox today, having him have dementia. I thought, oh, that's quite cool, because that's immediately a kind of a line of inquiry that's closed off. He's not going to remember anything that's going to happen there. But it's also made me think, like, are they going to have him as the baddie? Because the last theory that I had was that he was the one that killed Charlie, and he'd been having an affair with Lucy. But I can't see the storyline.
It wouldn't be a satisfactory ending if it's like it was him, but he doesn't remember.
Yeah, he doesn't remember, but they're still going to arrest him anyway and chuck him in prison.
So sad.
It does feel really sad, so I'm kind of, a little bit confused now about what actually happened.
I know, it feels like it's a bit of a now what, but not a now what as in, ooh, now what? Rather like, oh, now what?
I'm a little bit, ooh, now what?
Which one?
The good one, the one that they want us to think. But I just can't put my finger on exactly what it is that's not gripping me here. Well, I don't know. I mean, we've got this
ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, we've got this ex-boyfriend now that's been thrown into the mix here.
But wasn't Lennox like the most obvious one because he's a dodgy cop?
Well, yeah.
How come he's got such a giant big house?
Well, I don't know. Dodgy cops.
Maybe
being a dodgy cop obviously pays well.
No, maybe his wife's like a high-flying Cadbury's executive who invented dairy milk.
Maybe.
And she's the breadwinner. Why not?
Why not, indeed. So anyway, that's what's been going on. What did you think about them involving Dee-Dee in this?
It gives us something to do. Very interesting, like character. She's not going to get paid. Sad.
It was, I suppose, this thing with James, like we said, it was good that they threw her into a legal situation on the very first episode, but that was very much a one episode case, wasn't it, that she was involved in? And I suppose if they want to show her being a very thorough and competent lawyer, this seems to be a good place to do it with. I'd be really interested to see her in court because she is a bit of an...
feel like she'd have a good court presence.
No, she doesn't. I mean, Imran was always brilliant in court. He was always had great gravitas, didn't he? And it doesn't feel like Dee-Dee would have that. But
well, no, it feels like her style is a bit more kind of works on a sort of one-to-one kind of a thing.
It feels to me that she could just stand up in court, and she's got the gift of the gab, and she could just kind of maybe bamboozle the opposing side or something, or basically blag her way through a case. And she's one of these people that's such an amazing blagger that she will often win. And then when the gavel comes down, not that we have gavels, and the course is over, she's just going to go like, "Woo! I did it again. Who'd have thought?" You know. So I'm interested to see how she performs when the inevitable court case comes. I just hope that it's going to be fairly soon. I want this to definitely be wrapped up by Christmas. Is that too much to ask? I don't know. I mean, clearly the story's going to carry on next week because we'll get to see the encounter between Stu and Eliza. I wonder whether Eliza will, be asking questions or...
I thought she was going to be a little baby.
Well, no, we saw her. She was there in the nail. I'm sure she was there in the nail salon with the mum today. There was a little girl there. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know where it's gonna go, but yeah, I hope it happens soon because it's just not quite right. I did think that Dee-Dee and Alia made quite a good team. I know I'm not a big Alia fan, but I quite enjoyed them sitting together, cracking the case together at the table today. And finally, we had the Leave-lyn storyline, which is an awful lot of fun. And I think reflecting back on it now, I do remember back in July, August, reading that Maureen Lipman would be taking another mini break from the show because she was in a play at the Hope Mill Theatre, which is where we went to see Sally Ann Matthews and co. doing some jolly good acting earlier this year.
The actress who plays Dee-Dee was the director of one
Shanique
of the
directed the Hallel
vignettes.
Hens one, didn't she? Indeed. So Evelyn, they had to find a reason to get Evelyn out of the show. And when I saw the charity stuff last week, and I really, really enjoyed all the scenes with her and Roy, I didn't realise that this was a run-up to her departing the show for a while. I've got no idea how long she's going to be away for. I'm assuming she'll be back by the end of the year, but I'm not sure. But anyway, what she gets up to this week is she's having to work at Joy's charity shop after all the palaver last week. And she basically just has it up to here with Joy, whittering on about things. There's some great little reactions from Evelyn because basically they have Joy at the very back of the shot and sometimes out of shot completely with Evelyn taking up most of the shot, just looking absolutely sick as a dog of being there, being spoken to by this imbecile, she would think. There was a funny bit where she picks up a cricket bat and she looks like she's about to go and bludgeon Joy in. And she doesn't. She just leaves and she goes back to the street. And there's a scene with Mary. There's a reminder that the play's going on, but nothing really happens there. And at the end of the episode, she buggers off to the tram stop. She's getting away from it all. Maybe
Evelyn.
to Evelyn, yeah. And maybe she's going to go and do another round the world tour with her friend James. Who knows? But sorry, Evelyn fans, that's the last that you're going to see of her for a little bit. But she's not gone for good, so we can all be very pleased about that. And that's it. That is all that happened in Coronation Street this week. An awful lot. Oh, I did want to say that I thought it was quite interesting when they had that final scene with Evelyn and was it Chesney? No, Asher. Asher's the one that sees Evelyn leave. I guess that Sarah must have just been hanging around the studio or something and they had to have somebody to say goodbye with her. But
Who?
Sarah can't. Asher was not. Oh no. I got confused. It wasn't Alia, was it? It was Asher. So Tanisha was hanging around the studio. And they have her goodbye scene by the posters underneath the viaduct next to the Rovers. And that Fresh Go 4 poster that was the photoshopped Gemma and Chesney poster from early 2020, I think, was still up there. And that's quite funny because when you go on the Coronation Street tour, you can go underneath the viaduct there and still see this poster. And it's clearly a case of, well, they just not swapped it out yet. But I never thought that they'd actually show it in the show anymore because generally adverts don't stay up for nearly 3 years. So I just thought it was up there for us, for our benefit, for us tour goers. But clearly in Weatherfields, they have different rotation for their posters underneath viaducts. I don't know. Anyway, that was that for that. And with that, we have got to give this week's episodes a score. And we need to give a character of the week.
Yes,
Gemma,
who's yours?
who's my what? Character of the week? I don't know. I kind of would like to say Stephen, just because of all the fun reactions and just to see him have his total meltdown and everything, all the drama build up around him and the tension and everything. That was brilliant. I loved it. Dev was also pretty cool, being desperately trying to be a good dad. Not going to give it to Dee-Dee. I'm giving it just Jenny, Steve? No, I'm going to give it to Stephen's my character of the week. What about you?
Mine too.
Gemma says Stephen as well. I am giving this week's Coronation Street 4 jabbering Sarahs out of 5. Gemma?
I'm going to give it the same. It's the first 2 episodes are great.
Less so today. 4 what?
4 dirty fingernails, because the thumb's fine.